Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular afternoon council meeting of Monday, August the 9th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways: by watching the meeting live or recorded on our YouTube channel, or requesting to speak if you haven't requested to speak in advance but wish to speak during the public comment opportunities, you may connect to the meeting by calling the meeting conference line at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. After I have provided everybody who has pre-registered, and there are 3 on the speakers list this afternoon so far, with an opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those on the conference line. Deputy Corporate Officer, are there any late items to introduce?
There are no late items, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Could I ask for someone to bring forward adoption of the agenda then, please? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. And adoption of the minutes of July 12th, Committee of the Whole, and our regular afternoon meeting, and July the 19th, our special council meeting. Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great. No delegations today, so we'll move on to the first of 2 public comment opportunities. And first on the list is Simone Kutos. Are you with us, Simone? Simone, if you are on the line by telephone, joining us that way, could you please unmute, and it's your opportunity to speak. Okay, let's go on to the next one and we'll come back to Simone. And that's Jennifer Stark. Not there? Okay, thank you. Robert Hacking, I can see you there. Well, I can see a dog there. Please go ahead, Robert.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Robert Hacking, 7720 Prairie Valley Road, Summerland. I speak as a representative of Summerland Dog Owners Association for agenda item 7.3. Summerland Dog Owners Association is a Summerland dog owners advocacy group, and we're not affiliated or in contract with the district. The phrase SDOA recommendations incorporated is not a statement of endorsement of a particular design by us, and just references our personal input into the designs. Our participation with this proposal was conditional on us not being permitted to share or consult with the general membership for feedback. Therefore, it only represents our own individual opinions and should not be confused for formal stakeholder engagement. A public engagement process is yet to be conducted for this proposal, as has occurred with other locations. I have some questions for Council. In reviewing this single site proposal, does Council believe that the user conflicts anticipated with this site are preferable to the user conflicts identified with previous sites? On the site number 2, or the option number 2, grass from seed designs show a price range from $203,000 to $238,000. Does Council even have the appetite to commit this amount to a dog park? The objective is, after all, to build a suitable dog park, not just to earmark the idea for your future council, who will then have to determine if Summerland can even afford it. Regarding the designs, option 1 is indicated as having checked most of the desired components. Unfortunately, being of suitable size or designed to actually exercise dogs doesn't seem to be a desired component. Any owner with a Frisbee or a Chuck-it can clearly see why. For option 2, that the 1 acre design is in front of you at all is only because we suggested the design and were persistent in ensuring that council was provided one to review. When 3/4 of an acre is indicated as a minimum size requirement, that is not an aspirational goal, it is a minimum. Is achieving only the minimum the objective here? When we submitted our 126-page report to council in April 2021, we expected to have a formal response from staff, perhaps an opportunity to present in front of council, or some analysis of the 3 options we included. But none of this has occurred, and the public is left in the dark. Did staff present a report to council regarding our proposal? Has council even discussed it or provided direction? I see no public meeting to indicate that this has happened at all. That our proposal was also not included in the initial report speaks volumes to the lack of openness and transparency on behalf of the district.
Excuse me, Robert,
Yep.
your 2 minutes to comment has come to an end. Well, we'll have to go on to another speaker at this point. If there is still time in the 15 minutes allowed for this item on the agenda, then we'll return to you. Thank you. Simone, is that you? No.
It's me.
Oh,
Yes, I'm
there
here.
you are. Oh, yay.
I've never done
Please
that
go
before,
ahead,
so it's a little bit
Simone.
nerve-wracking. So I'm really nervous, so just bear with me, please. I'm just wondering if you'd explain why Living Memorial Park has seemed to have been fallen out of favor. There's been countless reports and overwhelming support, but it seems like at the December 14th meeting, it was negative things were said about it. I'm trying to talk really fast. So, Lori, it was also stated that the park was used for to be used as a ballpark. That's not true. It was veterans donated it for outdoor recreation. A dog park fits that. So the most important thing to state is Lori Mullen stated that field number 3 met most of the criteria, but the only real objection was that it displaced a user group. So let's look at that user group. 7 to 10-year-olds, Johnny wants to register for baseball. I go to Summerland minorbaseball.com. Turns out it's purely a marketing website. They have articles on how to make money, how to sell cats online. It also tells me that it can collect without parental consent information from minors. I went back on, and now it says that my connection is not private, and attackers could steal my password, messages, and credit cards. The scam the website is a scam. Going to the Facebook page, it's another dead end. No information, no photos, no posts. So what is happening here? Why is council protecting this very small user group and denying the whole of Summerland for the most suitable place for a dog park? There is something very odd happening here. And why is the very comprehensive report submitted to council on April 24th by the Summerland Dog Owners Association, why is it not on your website yet? It has all the information. There's a small group of people just using it as a private playground and denying the entire community a safe place to go with dogs, family, and friends. You have to address this because there is something odd about what is happening. And so thank you very much. And I think I sort of managed to get everything I needed in there. But yes, so let's actually see if they are playing baseball. When and see if it's just a little private
Your 2
club.
minutes have come to an end.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
And Simone, before you hang up, I just didn't catch your civic address for the public record.
The third person I have on the list is Jennifer Stark. Please unmute.
Yes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I've had to cut down my speech because of the time, but anyway, I'm ready to go.
Please start with your civic address.
7815 Giants Head Road.
Thank you.
Well, we've talked about the baseball only thing, and the historical documents say that it's to be used in perpetuity for public recreation. It doesn't mention baseball. And so we're looking at why does the council refuse to move the younger player group from Memorial Park, Snow Avenue, Diamond number 3, when they do not have any qualms about displacing a lot more tennis players for the pickleball courts. At the time, Councillor Doug Holmes mentioned that there is an increased interest in pickleball than tennis, so moving the tennis players was acceptable. If he really believes this, then moving the very few children who are rarely, if at all, using Diamond number 3, and who have an incredibly large number of places to move to, should not be a problem, as now there is an increased and massive interest in a dog park use. This increased interest extends to hundreds of potential users of the dog park, not just a few. So why is the council giving users of Diamond 3 preference over the Dog Owners Association? When users of Diamond 3 pay no fees at all, and when the dog owners pay hundreds and thousands of dollars in dog ownership fees and support Summerland in many ways by continuously boosting our local economy, where is our money going? I acknowledge that you guys are working really hard to try and resolve this issue, but perhaps you could work in a different way to end this conflict and lessen the anguish which has resulted from the discrimination of dog owners that they receive in Summerland. I would also like to refer back to Fosbury. Those locations are awful, and I've already told you what my reasons are, so I wouldn't even go forward with Fosbury. In any case, there's been no public address.
Thank you, Jennifer. Your 2 minutes is up. It's up? Probably not.
We have 3 minutes left for additional time.
Okay. Starting with you, Robert, would you like to speak again?
Yes, I'll just finish my statement.
Thank you.
As a resident and dog owner myself, it is disheartening to feel that the district does not understand us or our needs, and the only advocates fighting for a safe and usable design are us, the users. Worse, there's a persistent lack of empathy and a motivation to only build as little park as is necessary rather than one that would actually serve user needs. When so many Summerland residents own dogs and have been asking since before 2012 for a place to safely exercise them, I feel we need to do something that we can be proud of here. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Jennifer, would you like to speak for another moment? You are muted again.
Yes, I would like to speak. Thank you. Because we don't have a dog park, and I have dogs, and many other residents have dogs as well that cannot be walked off leash. We need the off leash fenced, fully fenced park to be able to run and socialize the dogs, right? So what we do now is we walk the dogs on the roads, and I live out to the southern end of Giants Head Road, and these roads don't have sidewalks, and there's very few places where there's a space wide enough to be off the road. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this. One day when I was walking up Happy Valley Road, I was with the dogs, I was picking up some dog poop. There's a steep hill going down to the left, and you're right on the road, and 2 cars come along. The first car pulled over and went around, but there was another car coming up the hill. So the second car came down and came within 1.5 feet of me. It almost hit me. And there's been so many incidences where the drivers just don't slow down. There are many drivers that do, and we wave and they slow down and they pull over, but there are many drivers that don't slow down and don't pull over, and it's dangerous. And we're suffering from that because we don't have the dog park. So I'm asking formally for the mayor and the council to please put a Memorial Park, Snow Avenue, Diamond number 3 back on the table, if you would, and seriously consider it as a dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now on to the first of our business items, 7.1 financial results as of June the 30th, 2021. And I will have Graham introduce this.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. In a moment, I will turn it over to Renee Bellick, who's Acting Director of Finance at the current time. The report before you gives a snapshot of our operating and capital spending at the 6-month point of this year. It's not abnormal for us to have more than 6 months left in our budgets at the 6-month point in the year, as there's a lag time between receiving funding approval and then procuring services and goods, and then being billed for those services once completed. There are some elements where budget is allocated, but where we are waiting for final decisions on grant funding. Some large projects like the Eisentalk Dam, the organics facility, and the solar site will see increased spending in the later part of the year as well. All that being said, I am concerned that given the number of capital projects underway and less than half of the year left to complete them, plus some of the staff turnover we have seen recently, that we could be challenged to see all the funds expended this year. For that reason, I have been working with the senior management team closely on this, and we'll be instituting additional expenditure monitoring for the remainder of the year. We also will be utilizing pre-approved templates for smaller purchases to save time and review from our finance and procurement teams, which should help move along some of the smaller equipment and service contract items on the list as well. And with that, perhaps I could turn it over to Ms. Bellick.
Thank you, Graham. Madam Mayor and Council, the first 6 months of 2021 have been very comparable to previous years for the municipality. Operational revenue is on track across all funds, with actual values surpassing budgeted figures. Of course, the largest component of general fund revenue is property taxation, which was billed in May of 2021. The water, sewer, and electric fund revenue figures are all close to 50% of the budgeted amount and are therefore very reflective of our projected revenue. On the expense side, the majority of the cost centers are below 50% of the overall budgeted amounts. Many of the variances are simply timing differences, with related work being completed in the summer or fall months, or year-end adjustments that won't be recorded until the fourth quarter. Specifically, the 3 lowest cost centers are general fund debt and transfers, water supply and distribution, and sewer collection and treatment. All 3 of these items have large MFA debt, and the principal payments aren't due until October for these items. All other expense cost centers are over the 30% mark when compared to budgeted figures, the majority having expenses specific to work being completed right now in the 3rd quarter of 2021. Overall, the district is in a healthy financial position, and there are no concerns identified. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Renee. Council, questions of our Acting Director of Finance? Okay. Could I have somebody bring forward the recommendation, please? Receive the report, Councillor Barkwell. Seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Sorry, is that what you were doing, or did you want to ask a question?
Do you want me to read it? Or?
Well, we're just receiving it for information.
Okay.
But if you'd like to read it, please go ahead.
The report from the Manager of Financial Services regarding the financial results as of June 30th, 2021 be received for information.
Thank you. And Councillor Van Elfen, any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 7.2 is the quarterly procurement report for 2021. And our CAO is going to speak to this, and Carol is on the line if necessary, if there are questions for her to answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much to report here. As you'll see, we just went forward on some work to get a request for quotes on a supply of distribution transformers are the focus here for our electric utility, and we did a bit of a line-by-line allocation there, focusing on the proponent's ability to bring delivery of those devices, and also a bit of a focus on the total cost of ownership, and that resulted in splitting up some of the procurement into 3 different organizations, which are listed here in a total of $651,000 roughly. So a bit of an administrative one this time, and the only piece that we'll be reporting this cycle.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, could I have someone bring that quarterly procurement report forward for receiving for information? Councillor Traynor, Councillor Holmes, any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Now on to item 7.3, Dog Park Concept Designs, Dale Meadows Sports Complex. And again, I'll have our CAO, Graham Statt, introduce this, and then we'll go on to Lori Mullion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for some time, Council has been exploring options for a new fenced dog park location. This is a challenging task given the need to source a location that is convenient for users, affordable, and on a land base that is safe and without significant user or resident concerns. In May, during the quarterly reporting, Council was informed of the site along Highway 97 at the Fosbury location that it appears to have been stalled indefinitely by the ministry associated with the provincial government. And so given that the Highways Ministry is not being responsive to our questions and inquiries at this time, Council asked that the Dale Meadows options be brought back for consideration as soon as possible, and today we do have those options before us. We have made an effort to look at the site with fresh eyes in terms of its potential to host a new service offering there year-round as a dog park. We have also engaged representatives of the Dog Owners Association collaboratively to explore what's in the realm of the possible on the site. However, broader consultation, as Mr. Hackey has indicated, broader consultation with the Dog Owners Association membership and other groups and residents has not taken place at this time. Ultimately, options have been prepared for today's discussion that represent a dog park in this location, that it can be feasible should Council wish to proceed in this way. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Mullen.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'm proposing to go through my full presentation deck, and then we can hold questions to the end, if that's okay. Thank you. So the purpose of this Council report is for Council to receive the proposed concept design drawings and estimated costing for a fenced off-leash dog park at the Dale Meadows Sports Complex, and to provide staff direction on next steps. Fiona Barton, landscape architect and president of Outland Design Landscape Architecture, is attending, as well as landscape architect Kim McNamee, and they're on the Zoom call, and they'll be able to answer any technical questions that we might have. We engaged Outland Design Landscape Architecture in March to start working through some detailed designs for this site. The following is a list of items which were considerations when researching dog park concepts. Options which add up to or close to 1 acre of fenced dog park space. Options which have minimal impact to parking. There are currently an estimated 183 parking spaces in the lot, excluding the north parking lot. Options which allow for reasonable flow of people from the north side of the park to the park and the parking lot to the south side of the park. Options which consider on-site amenities and to work around them for things such as the utility boxes, the works yard area, trees, etc. Options for large and small dogs, and options for temporary or fast fencing, which could allow for trial fencing versus permanent fencing. The landscape architects provided an initial 4 draft concept designs and costs, including some options for considerations of each. Staff and the landscape architects met with the representatives from the Dog Owners Association to gain input on the draft concepts. And that was with Pamela and Robert, as they noted at the beginning, that was with them directly. After reviewing feedback from the staff and the representatives from the Dog Owners Association, the landscape architects provided 3 follow-up concepts and then further expanded the concepts in option 2. And so that has resulted in a total of 5 concept designs for Council's consideration today. Each option includes double-gated access area with gravel surfacing, dog waste bag dispensers and garbage bins, maintaining the existing trees, maintenance gates for equipment access, a small dog park area which ties into the perimeter fence of the baseball diamond and utilizes the existing turf for its surfacing, and then protective netting is included for home run baseball protection, as well as an option for dog fountain or water service from the existing washroom building. Concepts 1 and 2 include shifting the north Seacan storage eastward to allow for additional parking. The soccer pitch has been reduced from its existing 110 meters in length to 100 meters, and this would meet the requirements for tournament-size fields. The soccer nets and the 3.6 meter high chain link fencing that exists currently would be shifted south based on the reduced soccer field size. And proposed new turf added near the small dog park area to better define parking areas to allow for flow from the north fields to the south fields. The Dog Owners Association recommend good quality durable grass. Concepts 1 and 2 include new turf from seed in the base cost estimate, and incremental costs for turf from sod are outlined as options. I'd just like to note that the turf from sod would have the quickest turnaround, but is still subject to weather and would need about 6 weeks to knit together so the dog activity does not damage the newly laid sod. Turf from seed would take longer. If the seed is irrigated, 8 to 12 weeks growing time is required before it could be used. Without irrigation, the only viable seed would be a dryland seed, and this would need several months to a couple of years to get established, and it could only be applied in the cold months at the end of the growing seasons. Please note that dedicated paved parking stalls and concrete pathways could be included as additional accessible design features, but they're currently not included in the costing. Option 1 proposes 3 fenced dog areas, a small area at 0.27 acres, a medium dog park area at 0.3 acres, and a large dog park area at 0.44 acres, totaling just under 1 acre. There is a corridor created between the medium and the dog parks for access to the soccer fields from the parking lot. The proposed layout allows for up to 206 parking spots, which is a net increase of 23 stalls. And I'd just like to note that the Summerland Dog Owners Association did state the maximum in this design of 0.44 acre size is far too cramped and crowded for the safe exercise needs of owners of energetic, medium, and large size breeds with this option. The cost estimates for this range from approximately $132,000 to $184,000, depending on the options chosen. Option 2 incorporates the recommendations that we heard from the Summerland Dog Owner Association representatives. Option 2A was the original design provided by the consultants. Option B was created after to consider additional parking, and option 2C was created to include the Dog Owners Association recommendations of a larger dog park area. So it maintains the small dog park area of 0.27 acres and has a large dog park area of 0.7 acres, 0.78 acres, totaling 1.05 acres. The proposed layout allows for up to 172 parking stalls, which is a net decrease of 11 stalls. And the fence line allows for green space around existing maintenance shed and utility boxes at the east side of the large dog park, as well as green space for soccer viewing on the west side of the large dog park. The cost estimates range from $132,000 up to approximately $223,000. Option 2B has the same spacing of the small and the large dog park area spaces. The proposed layout allows for up to 200 parking stalls, which is a net increase of 17 stalls by utilizing some of the green space for parking on the west side of the large dog park. The cost estimates range from approximately $134,000 to up to $225,000. And looking at concept 2C, this has further recommendations from the Dog Owners Association of maintaining the small dog park area and a large dog park area at 1.04 acres, totaling 1.31 acres. The proposed layout allows for up to 172 parking stalls, which is a net decrease of 11 stalls. It's got an extended fence line to the west and east to maximize dog park square footage. And the cost estimates range from approximately $151,000 to approximately $260,000. And concept 3 is a small dog park only. This option has the least amount of complex impacts, however, only provides an off-leash area for small dogs or a small amount of space for all size dogs to socialize. The cost estimates for permanent fencing range from approximately $36,000 up to $39,000. And costing estimates are also provided for temporary fencing for purchase or for rental. The following are overarching observations from staff for council's consideration. The neighboring residents and complex user groups have not been contacted for input on this project, and it is recommended that consultation be undertaken prior to proceeding. During the high season, the parking lot is full during days and times when the complex is busy with sport or event activities, and that equates to most weeknights and weekends in the spring and during the spring and fall tournament weekends. Reducing the number of parking spaces will likely result in significant concerns expressed from the sport and event user groups. During the off-season, the use of the complex is greatly reduced, and a dog park would increase utilization of the site by area residents year-round. It can be reasonably assumed that construction of a dog park in Dale Meadows will have an impact on the regular flow of people throughout the complex and the overall aesthetics of the park. Once the formalized location for a new dog park is created, it should be anticipated that bylaw enforcement will be required to support the change in existing use patterns, some of which involve the off-peak use of the sports fields for off-leash activities. The district would need to collaborate with the Dog Owners Association to message to their community about the need to utilize the fenced area for exercising their dogs. For options where new turf is added, there will be some additional operational costs for staff to monitor and support the growth until the turf is fully established. There will also be some operational impacts to the ongoing maintenance of the dog park, such as grass trimming and garbage. A master planning process for the Summerland Rodeo Grounds is targeted for 2022 and could include concept designs for a large fenced off-leash dog park at this location. The following are potential next steps for council's consideration. Council confirm if a dog park at Dale Meadows Sports Complex is desired. If a dog park at this location is desired and council supports the staff recommendation, then consultation would be conducted on the option chosen. A site survey is recommended at a cost of about approximately $3,000 to $5,000, and working tender drawings are estimated at $5,000 to $7,500. The results of the consultation will come back to council prior to proceeding with this procurement. Once the procurement obtains bids, a budget amendment approval will be sought. Construction timing will be dependent on contractor and supply availability as well as weather. As noted in the conclusion of the council report, staff have reservations on whether the Dale Meadows Sports Complex is the right location to invest significant dollars for a fenced off-leash dog park. Implementing this amenity in the middle of a complex will have significant impact on the overall flow and usage of one of Summerland's premier sports complexes. Staff also recognize that finding appropriately sized land which is unused in the downtown area of Summerland is very challenging. As well, staff recognize the importance of finding a suitable location for a fenced off-leash dog park. And it is also a recommendation that is noted in the Parks and Rec Master Plan. If council would like to proceed with the dog park in this location, the staff recommendation of option 2A provides a balanced approach which meets the minimum required area requested by the Dog Owners Association for a large dog park and aims to minimize the loss in parking spaces while maintaining some green area adjacent to the dog park. Construction timing is an important consideration in the staff recommendation, and so while further consultation is recommended, it is also recommended the site survey and tender drawings be prepared at the same time to avoid delays. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer questions of council, and as I mentioned, Fiona and Kim are on the line. They are landscape architects, and they're able to answer any technical questions about the design drawings, and we can bring them back up on the screen if we'd like. Thank you.
Yes, if you could bring them back up on the screen, that would be great. Where's the other one? Okay, I see them. Okay, thank you, Lori, for that presentation. Council, questions of either the architects or Lori or any other staff? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for staff, I suppose. I don't know how busy it gets there as far as parking is concerned, but assuming a few more people will be there for the dog park, and so that there can only be an increase in parking requirements, why isn't option 2B, which actually increases the number of parking stalls, the one that's recommended? Is there a, do I miss, that's about the only difference between the two, isn't it?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, you're correct. The only difference of those two is the parking. So it's whether or not we want to take some of the green space that's existing there that could be used for families that are watching the soccer into parking. So that is an option if council wanted to proceed with that option. It would just be taking a bit of the green space away.
So an option would be, okay, if the parking pressure was too great, then we go back and turn it into parking?
We could do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our Director of Recreation. Lori, you were saying that the parking counts, the north parking lot wasn't taken into account as far as the number of stalls?
That is correct.
How many stalls do we have in that north parking lot?
I don't have that number with me, sorry.
Okay. So we, if I may have another, can you, we've had an existing budget that we were talking about, and even when we discussed going down at Peach Orchard Park, was our consultant relayed the amount of money that was budgeted for the dog park?
Sorry, through Madam Mayor, point of clarification, were these consultants aware of that budget?
Yes, so was it relayed to our consultants in regards to this new layout at Dale Meadows, what our budget figure was that we were putting forward?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple technical ones. The existing transformer, I presume it can't be inside the dog park, the area, and if that's the case, why would that be?
The existing utility box?
Yeah.
So it could be incorporated into the dog park area if, and that's, I believe, an option to see. Or it's just outside. So it could expand even further. The reason to keep it outside of the dog park area was to allow staff to come and if they needed to access it, they didn't have to go into the dog park to do that. But I mean, it could.
And a further, so with, how would lawn mowing equipment, for example, get in there?
So through Madam Mayor, there are gates on all the options to provide for maintenance equipment to come through. So you'll see, in addition to the dog park gates, there are maintenance gates, and those are for the equipment to get through.
So for accessing the utility box, it would make no difference then. You could use the same gates.
They could use the same gates. It's just the interactions,
Right.
Reducing the interactions with the dog owners.
Okay.
Councillor Carlson.
Can you just, I think it was in the Dog Owners Association report, but I'm just wondering if you can explain a little bit more why dogs need turf and why it can't be something else, or, you know, orchard grass or something that isn't quite as labor intensive as having a fully manicured field.
So I may defer this over to Kim or Fiona as far as dog park designs, but that was a recommendation that came through the Dog Owners Association as a preferred surfacing for a dog park. But Kim or Fiona, are you able to answer just in general?
Absolutely. Thanks, Laurie, and through Madam Mayor. It's common practice that dog exercise off-leash areas are not surfaced with manicured turf. In this particular instance, I believe it would be a preference for that. There are some long-term operational and maintenance requirements that would come with maintaining a manicured turf surface. Just based on the foot traffic and paw traffic, there would be a bit of erosion from that. So if I was to use the city of Kelowna as an example, most of their dog parks are not surfaced with manicured turf.
So just to follow up then, this might be for Lori. So why is this including $20,000 worth of turf? If we don't necessarily, it's not a requirement for a dog park? Is that simply because it was asked for, or is it more of an aesthetic thing at the field to keep it looking good? Does that come from staff, or does that come from the Dog Owners Association?
Certainly through Madam Mayor, Laurie, if I may, it is very much an aesthetic piece. If there is the budget availability to maintain that surface, given that you are setting a dog park in an athletic complex, which has mostly turf, there's a certain look or aesthetic that comes with maintaining turf. So if there is the budget to do it, then you certainly can.
And through Madam Mayor, I'll just follow up. The original drawings that the landscape architects provided did take out the parking area and leave it to native soil. So that was an option, obviously a more cost-effective option that could be in place. The Dog Owners Association felt strongly that that would not be desired, to have that mixed use of native soil plus turf, and just felt that it was a strong recommendation that they had, but it certainly what we could do that, and the cost would go down. Aesthetically, yes, as Fiona has mentioned, it is not as nice, but it is possible for sure.
So just one more follow-up then. So if this were at any other location, it wouldn't necessarily need to be with turf. If this dog park went somewhere else, it doesn't necessarily mean we'd have to invest in the infrastructure to add turf and go there specifically to maintain the dog park. It could be a little bit less intensive. Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go back to you, Councillor Holmes, any councillor that hasn't spoken yet that has a couple of questions? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to Lori. I couldn't find it. Do you know what the membership is of the Dog Owners Association? How many members they have currently?
I don't know what the current membership is. I could look it up and find out for council. I think at one point they had a petition of over 600, but I don't know the current membership active.
Thank you.
I had the same or a similar question. I was just wondering, I haven't been able to find how one becomes a member of the Dog Owners Association. So if we can put that on the questions to ask them, I would appreciate knowing what the annual membership fee is.
I just have one quick question, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Traynor, do you have any questions at this time? Okay, thank you. So option 3 is the only option that has just the small dog park, with the possibility that once the rodeo grounds master plan is completed in 2022, there might be the option of having a large fenced off-leash dog park up there, correct? My question is, and this may be premature, but my question is, has there been any even preliminary environmental assessment done up at the rodeo grounds? I would hate to see us go with, and I'm not suggesting that this is what's going to happen, but to go with option 3 in the hopes that we could have a larger area for the larger dogs, and only to discover that it can't be done up there.
Thank you for the question, Madam Mayor, but no, there has not been an environmental assessment done at the rodeo grounds at this time that I'm aware of since I've been here.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes, thanks for your patience.
Thank you. So option 1 has separate areas for medium and large dogs, and the others don't. It's all one. So I guess my question is, what's the point of having separate ones for medium and large dogs, and is it necessary?
Through Madam Mayor, this option was one of the first options that were created, and the reason it's split out is because of creating access from the parking lot through to the soccer fields, and that's why it's in there as a consideration to provide access in the middle versus on either end.
But just to follow up, but the other ones don't have access.
You'd have to go around on either side, yes.
So in theory, you could just join those two and have one big park.
Which is similar to option 2C.
Right. And follow up, if talking about option 3, if we decided to have a small park there and explore opportunities for the future for a larger park somewhere else, conceivably we could expand that to make it a little bit larger, all the way to the utility box and even whatever land is accessible.
Through Madam Mayor, yes, we could. You'll see a corridor in between the two ball diamonds there. So where that fence line ends on the west side of the small dog park is a natural area of people going through to the ball diamonds, to the other ends of the ball diamonds, and we've installed some shade area underneath there, some netting a little bit farther down. So that would block that corridor for access. They'd have to go all the way around to the very back.
Councillor Barkwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the same thing on my mind as Councillor Carlson concerning the footing. The dog park that we use in Penticton has sort of a sandy footing, and nobody's ever expressed any concern when I've been there, or the members of our family who are really the dog people. And I would think that so part of that is a question, the small dog park, what was the proposal for it? Turf or sort of a dirt natural surface?
Through Madam Mayor, the small dog park area is turf right now. It's grass, so it would be maintaining the same surfacing.
I would suggest that it's exercise in futility if the dog park gets any amount of use at all in maintaining a grass, which is why other ones don't, unless it's a very large field, like a school field, with the dogs running around. So I'd like to see a separate vote or something on the issue of whether we spend the money for turf and trying to maintain that turf on both of those parks, because they're rather small and I think they'd get beat to death, and it would be kind of pointless, as nice as it sounds and might look. Is there some way we can sort of address that issue separately and have because we're not sure where we're going. I guess if we recommend a option here for further consultation, maybe that's part of the consultation. When we have all these options, it's hard to figure out the process. So I'm looking for some suggestions, maybe.
I think what we'll do, Councillor Barkwell, is when we get to that point, for the discussion part of this, there was a slide there on next steps, and we'll start with the one at the top about whether or not any of the options at Dale Meadows, and then we can go from there. But certainly your request to have a discussion about turf or not, or to turf or not to turf, would be something that we can speak about in that discussion. And it could be separated out. I have Councillor Traynor, then Councillor Patton, and then Councillor Van Elfen.
I'm going to throw something out there, and I don't know what the rest of council will think about it. And I don't mean to do this to take steps back by any means. I completely, and this report is really good, and we've got some good options, some expensive options. While we continue to debate this, is there any kind of appetite, or even would it even work, to do a temporary trial this fall of a dog park at Snow Avenue? Is that even something that we could do? That way we'd be able to know, like, would it be used? How many people would use it? It would save us some money. So I'm just wondering if that's even an option and what council thinks about that, or do we want to keep that off the table?
I think it's totally valid, but we have to have something on the table before we can, have that discussion. And we're still in the question part of it, so please bring that forward once we are in the discussion part of it. We need to have the opportunity of all of the questions to come out, or as many as we can get out at this point, not saying that there can't be questions after. And then when we talk about this for the next steps, then we could talk about that then? Okay, thanks. I won't forget. And you don't forget either.
It's just something to think about as we continue this discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To our Director of Recreation. Lori, has the Summerland dog owners come forward with any financial contributions towards the dog park at all?
Through Madam Mayor, I am not aware. I'll just go to the CAO to see if he's had any information on that?
Thank you, and through the mayor, I don't believe Councillor Patton, they've raised new financial contributions. However, they have indicated, and I think in the opening comments, perhaps of Mr. Hacking, that there's significant licensing that is paid for owning a dog, and they do see that licensing as being something that the district can utilize to contribute to these sorts of facilities, but no new contributions specific to a dog park have been raised.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I please, I realize in regards to the dog licensing aspect of it, but I know we contract the dog licensing out. How much do we actually retain from dog licensing? I don't mean to put you on the spot, and it can wait. I'm just wondering if it's a significant amount, or if it's, I know it is a significant amount we do for utilizing the services of our animal control. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through to Councillor Patton. I see we still have our Acting Director of Finance on the line. Perhaps she wishes she wasn't still on the line, but maybe I'll just ask Renee if you know offhand, or if it's something we need to look more into. And for clarity, the question, Renee, is about, do we know what our retained portion, if any, of the licensing would be, given that we do contract out some of those services? She may have stepped away, or she's on mute.
She is on mute, but she may have stepped away as well. We can find out, okay? Good question. And along those lines, there are dog owners in Summerland that do not get a dog license. Just saying. Lots of them. I have Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through our consultants. In your expertise, is this something you see a lot of when you're working on these types of projects where it's a mixed use, like a dog park in amongst ball diamonds / soccer fields, little, you got children playing soccer, you got people playing, like, is this a very common approach? Do you see this often?
Through the Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. It's a good one. Yes, there is oftentimes dog off-leash exercise areas are in amongst other amenities within public land. From a positive perspective, it's a good thing. If you have families that are attending athletic tournaments and they've brought a pet with them, it's a nice adjacent use to have. The other experience that we have had with other municipalities is the incorporation of beach accesses for dogs and how that relates to waterfront use by other park users that are not dog owners. So yes, it does happen. I would say in this case, it's probably one of the projects where the team has been challenged in terms of ensuring that run-out zones for sports fields are maintained. Circulation is also achieved. So it has been, I think, quite an efficient site to work with for a number of different factors when we're doing site planning and layout. There have been easier projects.
But at this time, we haven't consulted with any of the user groups. And the further question, if I may, on the last concept for the small dog park only, and then the conversation about the Summerland rodeo grounds master plan in the very near future, the small park could be at this time a temporary fencing. And then if something did come about at the rodeo grounds, it could be, moved. The temporary fencing could come down, it goes back to natural state, and it could all be at one location, possibly. Thank you.
Lori, you had, you looked like you wanted to respond to a kind of question, non-question. No, that's okay.
No, I was just nodding my head that Councillor Van Elfen's assumptions are correct.
Okay, good, thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to say, I think the question of the contribution from dog tags has come up before. And I think it was about the revenue from dog tags was about half of what we spend on by law enforcement, if I, roughly speaking. Does that ring any bells? Because I think it came up at this table before. Yeah, I see nods.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on Councillor Van Elfen's point there. You know, the way I see it, the issue with Dale Meadows is we don't know if it'll be used. That if we create a park there, how well it'll be used. We don't know if they'll create conflicts with the other users there. And I guess all that will come out in consultations. But this idea of having temporary fencing, it might be a way to try it out for option 3 at least. And so I was just wondering, what would that look like, putting temporary fencing up there, and how much would it look exactly what's in the plan here, or is it a temporary? You know, I'm just thinking of access and amenities and all that sort of thing.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Holmes, one thing that's different about temporary fencing is it is higher. So we would have to go up to the modulock type fencing, which is, I believe it's about 5 to 6 feet. So that would be a difference. It would be higher. We could still have garbage cans and dog bag, boot bag dispensers located there. So I think, you know, you could have those amenities on that site. It's not as attractive as a permanent fence that's a little bit lower, but I don't know, CAO Stat, if you have anything to add to that with your experience with fast fencing.
Yeah, it's a slightly taller fence. I think we were looking at maybe 5.5 feet for a permanent fence, and a fast fence typically about 6 feet. They're, you know, they can be set up to be an appropriate sort of design so that the wind's not blowing them over. They're well footed, and other amenities can be played in. You could still set it up so there's sort of like a staging area. You come in one gate, take your dog off the leash, come in another gate, that sort of thing. For the fast fencing of what might be a small dog park.
Is that modulock you speak of, is that what was around the skateboard park? Temporarily, remember?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. I can see that in my mind then. Thanks.
And
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just to follow up then, I noticed there's options for renting or purchasing that fast fencing. If we were to purchase, is that something that we as a district have regular use for, and would it would be worthwhile purchasing anyway, or is it something we don't normally use?
Through Madam Mayor, that would be a better question probably for the Public Works Department for some of the projects that they do. I know events use it, so it might be something that we could rent out to special events when they're in town, because a lot of them do use or they rent elsewhere. So I could see some uses for it.
Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just something I wanted to raise earlier in reference to a question Councillor Barkwell asked regarding turf. So the Penticton, I believe it was actually Penticton, was raised as a specific example by those who we did work with at the Dog Owners Association and these options. And they did express concern with the sandy surface. Particularly their interests in a dog park at this time are largely to deal with what seems to be an absence of a large fenced area to exercise large dogs by throwing things like frisbees and those chuck-it balls and long distance to give the big dogs exercise. And they indicated on a sandy surface, those large dogs, when they do, sort of a quick turnaround to catch that frisbee, this sort of thing, they are more prone to injury. Particularly, I believe they had mentioned hip injuries on those sandy soil surfaces, and turf, from their experience and perspective, was something that was easier, particularly on the large dogs. So I think, from our end, it would be more of an aesthetic consideration. From their end, a little bit of a safety one, and they did raise the Penticton as a specific example in that.
My worry would be how hot a sandy surface gets in our summer sun. It's not like there's a lot of shade there. And that's not safe for dogs either, so, yeah.
Good trigger, Madam Mayor. Yes, now that you mention it, they had also raised that as a consideration also in any of the surfacing considerations, given the heat that we do sometimes experience certain times of the year.
Okay, so at this point, are there any more pressing questions for staff or the consultants? Okay, I have a question for you, soon-to-be corporate officer or deputy corporate officer. And my question is, can we go through, as I suggested, can we go through those steps, or do we need to have something on the table first?
For the discussion of the motions, would it be helpful if I read what the staff recommendation is? And then if someone wanted to move it, that we could have the discussion on the motions and consider adding or amending part of the staff recommendation?
Sure. Has everyone read that? Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So it is included right now as one resolution. It can be divided up should council wish. It's that the dog park concept designs Dale Meadows Sports Complex report from the Director of Community Services dated August 9th, 2021 be received for information, and that staff are directed to proceed with consulting with user groups and area residents on option 2A and preparing site surveys and tender drawings for this option, and that staff are further directed to report back to council on the results of the consultation prior to posting the tender.
Okay, thank you, Dallas. I'm sorry, but I still have the same question. So do we have to have what you've read with the staff recommendation? Do we have to have that on the floor, or can we go through the next steps as Lori has indicated on her slide? Starting with whether Dale Meadows is something that is still the preferred location.
You can choose to walk through each of the next steps, and also if you wanted to have the discussion on the turf surfacing and the temporary trial of Snow Avenue as well. And if there's any resolutions or motions coming out of that, we can craft those individually.
Okay, sorry, I'm not understanding. So I just want to verify, do we need to have a resolution made, a motion made and seconded before we carry on with the next steps and other things that might come out of that? Or can we go through the next steps till we get to a point where it makes sense to bring the resolution forward?
I would suggest starting with the next steps first.
Okay, good.
Because the specific location for the dog park in here is option 2A, which is Dale Meadows. But if you have the conversation on that first, that would inform the resolution discussion. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Good, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Okay, so let's start with, any of those things up there, but it seems that Lori has put that in the logical order, whether or not we want to have, if the Dale Meadows Sports Complex is our preferred location for the dog park. Anyone want to weigh in? Councillor Van Elfen, and then Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see the option C, possibly a small dog park, temporary fencing at this point in time. But I don't think, personally, I don't think it's, for me, it's the preferred location for a large, medium dog park in that location. I think there's other options, and it has been mentioned that there will be a master plan looked at in a different location. And so that's why I'm personal preference is the C for the small dog park with the temporary fencing at this point in time. Thank you.
So that's option 3.
Correct.
3, okay. Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yes, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I could see maybe a temporary thing for an option 3. I just can't, get my head around the cost of putting in a dog park there. It's just beyond the pale.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to weigh in? Councillor Traynor.
Just for clarification, option 3, the small dog park only, so this would just be temporary, is that correct? And then we would see whether it's working or not. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. I would be in support of that. And again, I'll ask council if they are open to doing a similar temporary trial at Snow Avenue as well for larger dogs. I'm not sure if we could do both, if that would cost us a lot, but then we would kind of, I think, have an idea of usage. And right now we're kind of doing a lot of this guessing, like, will people be using it? Won't they be using it? And nobody really knows. So if we could have these 2 trials, then I think we might have more concrete data to kind of go forward on, because it is a huge investment if we were to pick 2A, B, or C. That's it for now.
Thank you, Councillor Traynor. So we'll add that to the discussion. Councillor Barkwold?
Thank you. I'll let Councillor Holmes go first. I think I'm still collecting my thoughts.
I was going to respond. I was just going to respond to Aaron, but if we're my thoughts on Snow Avenue is one of the speakers at the beginning of the meeting talked about pickleball and tennis, and it's true that, you know, those are 2 user groups that were in a lot of conflict over using the same space, and there continues to be conflicts, but it's resolved largely, and it was largely resolved, and it took a lot of time, and it's still happening, but by talking to each other, by the 2 user groups talking to each other, and facilitated largely by our own staff. And I think really that's what needs to happen with Snow Avenue. I think the dog owners and the baseball people, those 2 user groups, need to sit down and talk to each other. And we can help by facilitating. But until they have some sort of common understanding between the 2 of them, and you know, it's a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I think once they start talking, then maybe we'll see. Maybe it will go nowhere, but you never know until they start talking.
So essentially behave like the adults that you are. That's what I'm saying. Councillor Carlson, did you have your hand up?
I have, I guess I have some thoughts. I think I heard rodeo grounds be discussed a couple of times this afternoon, and right from the very beginning of this process, I've thought that the rodeo grounds would be a very good place to have a very large off-leash dog park. It could draw people from all over the place if we had a big enough space to be running dogs, and if it was safe, I think it'd be ideal. And so I like the concept of having a temporary location for small dogs, but perhaps we need to discuss whether a temporary space for large dogs should be at the rodeo grounds or at Snow Avenue, because I do think that people are going to drive If they have to go to Snow Avenue, they're going to drive. If they have to go to Powell Beach, they're going to drive. If they have to go to the rodeo grounds, they're going to drive. And so if you're going to drive an extra 2 kilometers, I don't think that's going to deter you from going to a dog park. So I think that we go right back to the very beginning of this whole conversation. The Dog Owners Association, the only place that they would like to see a dog park is Snow Avenue. It's been made abundantly clear that that's where they would like to see a dog park. Council, when we decided that Snow Avenue wasn't going to be a place for a dog park, it wasn't because we didn't just want to take away from the 10-year-olds that are playing baseball. It's that that land was donated to the district so that people could play baseball. And so there's a history to it that I think is important, and it's an ethical thing, and maybe it would be a good place, but there's still that feeling of how do you take away something that was given to the citizens for a specific purpose, right? And so it's a really challenging one to deal with. But I do think that if we're going to talk about doing some temporary locations, some pilot projects, then we need to look at that in a larger scope and not just exclude the rodeo grounds, especially if there's great potential out there.
Councillor Van Alphen.
I guess it was on, sorry. I appreciate what Councillor Carlson is saying. I have to agree 100%. Like, it's not just, the rodeo grounds, I think has a lot of potential, personally. As per people driving, they're going to drive, most people would drive to Dale Meadows, and I think, again, Snow Avenue for me is a non-starter, but people would have to drive there. And as of today, every day, I know lots of people that drive to Sunoka daily with their dogs, and they hike Trout Creek up towards the trestle. And there's the beach there, the dog park beach, and people drive there constantly. So I don't think driving out to the rodeo grounds is something that won't happen, because I think it will. And I think that's a good location for a large and possibly a small dog park in the future. Could be segregated off by fencing, but there's a lot of land up there that I think we could utilize, and I don't think the conflict is as big. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Well, this topic has certainly gone around the table a few times. I thought the rodeo grounds was maybe discounted, but maybe it's back on the table. One of the things about the rodeo grounds for me is that I feel it's underutilized, and something that would, although I don't know how many people would drive out there, Councillor Van Alphen raises a good point. And we have a wonderful off-leash dog park at Sunoka, and somehow we never seem to talk about it or consider that it's there, but it is, and it's great. And any community would love to have an off-leash dog park like we have at Sunoka to run the dog. And maybe it could be both. Maybe we could work with the provincial government and put a fenced area for small dogs down there, and a fenced area for large dogs, and a non-fenced area. There's another thing on the table. Why couldn't it be spruced up down there and be the community's dog park? I'll leave that one for you to think with. The Snow Avenue, it really, really bothers me to think that we have a beautiful facility specifically designed for minor baseball, and that we would take that away. You can't take away something that people have. And as a councillors, we have to think about the community, the larger community. The Dog Owners Association, really, their priority, and with all, I totally understand it and respect it, is that nothing else matters. It's what their priority is, the best alternative for them and their view. And we have to take a larger view, and to take something away when there's something else that would be nearly as good, whatever the options are, just seems like a better thing to do. So I'm willing to go along with anything, as long as we get something going here. And I'm not against any proposition except for taking away the the minor baseball and the beautiful and the nice grass. You know, for baseball, you want your grass good. You don't want the ball bouncing crazy. You got your bases, you got your dugout, you got everything. It just, I want to preserve that. And as far as the options are concerned, I think they're all good. Let's try one. Put one on the table. I'll vote for it, as long as it's not Snow Avenue.
Seems like a good time to actually get something on the table, and then we can discuss it further and change if we wish. I am going to suggest that we break this into, yes, okay. So could I have someone bring forward receiving this report for information? That should be the easy one. Councillor Traynor and Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Great, okay. And then the next, I would like to invite a councillor to bring forward the next resolution, and then we can talk about how that might look and make amendments if necessary, and then we can have a vote on that. So that's the one that starts with staff are directed to proceed with, etc. Who's feeling particularly brave today? Councillor Patton, thank you, sir.
All right. So, shall I begin with the dog park concept designs?
No, we've already voted on that one, so on to the next one.
And that staff are directed to proceed with consulting with user groups and area residents on option 2A and preparing site surveys and tender drawings for this option.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Barkwell. Okay, now discussion on this. Thank you, Councillor Patton. Councillor Carlson.
Just want to state that I'm not in favor of 2A at Dale Meadows Park.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am also not in favor of 2A at Dale Meadows Park.
Councillor Patton.
Madam Mayor, I will not be supporting 2A at Dale's Meadow Park. I did bring it forward, but I don't have to agree with it.
That's exactly right, and I appreciate you bringing it onto the table. Okay. Anyone else want to speak to the motion that's on the table? I will speak. I also will not be supporting 2A. Councillor Barkwell.
Could anybody articulate for me why they don't support this staff recommendation?
Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Holmes.
Money.
I was going to say $200,000.
Cost of the project. Councillor Carlson.
I also think that if we were to proceed and put in a fenced dog park at Dale Meadows for large dogs, people would use it, but I think more people would still take their dogs there and run them wherever they want, as we currently do. And I don't think that we are currently set up to enforce any bylaw action to stop that from happening. And so I think I don't think it would work the way that it would be envisioned, because they would see right next to it, there's a giant field. If there's no one playing on that field, the dogs are going to play on that field.
So there's another reason for you, Councillor Barkwell. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think our rec director said it perfect. This is one of our premier, absolute premier parks. Ballparks, soccer fields. The chunk of land we're talking about in the future could be used for other, sports activities also. Could be other types of things going in there that would mesh well with soccer and baseball. So that's why and the financial aspect of it at this point in time. That's where I don't support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. I have two reasons for not supporting it. The first is that I don't want to be losing 17 parking spaces, 11 parking spaces. Option 2B at least has an increase in parking. And secondly, I like the idea of having the small dog park there, even if it's temporarily, until we have the option of looking at the rodeo grounds. And for the record, I have a dog. He's a big dog. Most people at Municipal Hall know my big dog. He loves going to the Sunoka Beach Park. I don't take him to the Peach Orchard Beach Park. And we often walk on Conkle Mountain, which is where the rodeo grounds are. So on the Trans-Canada Trail and on the mountain itself. So moving my big dog around in my small car it's important to me. And so I pop him in there, even though he hates driving in the car. I drive 15, 20 minutes if I had to get my dog to an area where he can explore and enjoy whatever the amenity offers. Okay, and I also know that a number of people on council have dogs too. So it's not like we don't have a clue. Councillor Traynor.
I won't be supporting this motion either because I think it's a lot of money for a compromise, and I can completely understand why these options are here. I know that this has been a really difficult project for staff and the public, and so we're all trying our hardest to find something that works for everybody. But I think that this is a compromise that I don't think anybody will really be happy with, and it's still very expensive. So that's why I won't be supporting this one.
Okay, any further discussion, or is it time for a vote now? Okay, all in favor? Option 2A. Opposed? Okay, so that has been soundly defeated. Is there another option? It may include Snow Avenue or not, that someone would like to put on the table. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It goes back to the whole driving Dale Meadows versus Rodeo Grounds versus Snow Avenue. And Councillor Barkwell has just brought up something that I didn't even really think of, but Sunoka Beach and that area and that trail along Trout Creek heading towards the trestle is hugely used by dog owners of our community. Question through to our CAO and to our Director of Community Services. Would there be an option to have a conversation with the provincial government that we could put some amenities down there, and maybe have a bit of a fenced area for the smaller dogs? And, I just think it's a brilliant location. It obviously is because it's well used, probably more used there than anywhere else in Summerland. Because I know people daily that take their dogs down there. So, is there an appetite to have that conversation with the provincial government? Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Van Elfen, we can always reach out, and if that was the desire of council, we could certainly explore that. They do host, as has been mentioned, a lot of dog activity currently in the park. Whether they'd be interested in some more permanent structures erected to accommodate a fenced park would have to be explored to see if it is a potential option. These things will take some time usually to engage the provincial government, receive response, explore, but it's something we could certainly do if directed to do so.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, just to, I guess, remind everybody, we are working with the Okanagan Nation Alliance, if we're talking about the west side of the highway, to restore that creek with oxbows and make it more meandering, which will change the shape of the creek and presumably change the the path along that creek. So I think that's something we would need to keep into consideration if we're talking about that side of the highway.
Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Trainer.
I have two motions in mind, but I'll put only one forward at a time. And I'll put forward the motion that staff consult with the provincial government to explore the opportunities of putting dog park facilities at Sunoka as them providing the area and the district providing the infrastructure. And they'll have to negotiate on maintenance, which
so that's your motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Holmes, thank you. Okay. Councillor Trainer, did you have a question or were you? Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I was just thinking back to all of the reports that we've had so far and the consultants' reports. And I recall that like Sunoka is great. It's a great park. I don't disagree that it's not used, but I think that what came out of a lot of the research that we've gotten so far is that there was a need for a park that was closer to downtown, whether that be Snow Avenue or Rodeo Grounds or Dale Meadows. That was why we continued to have this discussion, is that, and I think that was in the recreation plan as well, is that there was a desire for a park closer to downtown. So that's just something to keep in mind when we're talking about Sunoka, that Sunoka is kind of, even though people may be willing to drive there, it's I think that they're kind of two different things. So.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Trainer, and that's why I mentioned I have two motions in mind, somebody maybe will put forward the motion, or why I would support the motion of a temporary small dog park at Dale Meadows, because something in the town area was part of the considerations. Temporary is, we can find out how it's used. One of the consultants said that the dog parks are good to have in conjunction with other facilities because people like to bring their dogs when they go to their soccer game or whatever. So maybe that's a place that they can also do that. So for that reason, something there might be considered. But right now we're talking about the provincial.
Okay, any further discussion on speaking to the province on Sunoka Beach? Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a friendly amendment to the motion, if we can, as Councillor Holmes has indicated, maybe we should include Okanagan Nation Alliance in the conversation with the province, if we're talking about the Sunoka area, because of the west side of the highway. Is that appropriate, Madam Mayor? If not, I'll take it off.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's appropriate or not, but I have a question for Councillor Barkwell. Is it your thought when you put the motion forward that any infrastructure would be on the east side of the highway next to the lake at the existing dog park?
Well, I wouldn't want to presuppose anything. Let's just, if consultation's needed, I think we can trust the provincial government and the staff would do the necessary consultation. Although what came to my mind was the east side of the highway, I wouldn't want to say that the west side doesn't have some possibilities too. So okay. I'd leave it for them.
Okay. Councillor Carlson.
Just want to make sure before we bring it forward to the province that the dog beach down there in the off-leash dog area is actually sanctioned and allowed in the provincial park, because we would hate to bring forward this issue and then bring it to their attention if perhaps it should be something that just keeps happening. I think it is, but we just want to make sure before we.
I'm pretty sure it is because there's signage up there that indicates it. Pet Beach. Yep. Councillor Trainer.
Can I just clarify with Councillor Barkle exactly what we're asking the province to do? Because I'm not sure that this is going to address what we have in front of us here. And I don't even know if there are any issues at Sunoco right now. Like maybe people like that it's an open area. And I mean, I know that there are already garbage cans there and a fence. And so I just don't know what we would gain from doing that and whether that addresses what we have in front of us.
Yeah, I think that a fenced area is different than the open area, and there's enough space there that the open area and the throwing the ball in the water and such would all remain as well. But also, there's people that would like to have their dog within a fenced area, and the footing and such. So this would be an addition to what's there already, I'm assuming, and not take away from anything that's there already. And yes, it doesn't address other things, but it's a start. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call the question on this particular one, noting the time. We're kind of running behind. Unless somebody really wants to make another point before I call the question? Okay, could I have you read yes, thank you.
That staff be directed to consult with the provincial government to explore opportunities to locate additional dog park facilities within the Sunoco Beach area.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that is defeated then. Okay, another option. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to put a motion on the floor that we move with option 3 on a temporary basis at Dale Meadows.
Seconder, Councillor Holmes. Okay, further discussion. Oh, Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Carlson.
Clarification through to Councillor Patton, if I may, is that including temporary fencing?
Yes, as a temporary location to see how it works out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Carlson?
Thank you. Just similar to other pilots or temporary projects, can we, before beginning, set a timeline or an expectation of what that might look like when we review it, just so that we don't end up with a half-baked project that's there forever and ever?
Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Patton? Is it tied into, for example, the rodeo grounds assessment, or how would that look?
Absolutely. I think that if we tie it into the rodeo grounds and with the plan that's coming out for there, and I would assume that any pilot that we're going to look at, we wouldn't want to do for any less than 1 year anyways, just to see how the usage that is happening there. And I'm just not sure how we would monitor the usage, but yeah, I think we should tie it into if there was the means for larger dogs up at the rodeo grounds, that would work out fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Carlson?
Just to also follow up that once something is created and given, it's very difficult to take away if it's a big success. So I think that making sure that it's this is the direction that we want to go, and it's known that it's a pilot and it is being reviewed. I think that's really important. We don't say, oh, this is the decision. Okay?
There also is the option of keeping that area for the small dogs, and the larger dogs can go out to the rodeo grounds. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Councillor Trainer, you're absolutely correct, but I think that temporary fencing, or Councillor Carlson, that, I apologize, that temporary fencing would be a very good indication that it is not a permanent location for the time being anyways.
Okay, corporate, oh, go ahead, Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarity, and perhaps it is through to Councillor Patton. I believe there's two different prices outlined in the materials, one for purchase of the fencing that would be temporary fencing, and the other for rental of the fencing. And I was intrigued by the concept raised earlier by Councillor Holmes about potentially purchasing the fencing for some other events and other purposes. But I thought just for our own clarity, it'd be good to know if we're after just a temporary rental opportunity of that fencing or actually purchasing temporary fencing.
What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And back to our CIO. I think the purchasing is a good idea, considering that the estimated duration of 6 months was for this, which would put us up to $4,320, where we could buy that same amount of fencing for $5,940. So it makes total common sense that we purchase that fence.
Okay. I'm going to ask our Deputy Corporate Officer if we need to have something added about the time frame for the temporary option 3.
I would definitely suggest it as a best practice, Madam Mayor. We could do 1 year from now, or September 2022, for reporting back to staff with the use of the site, if that's acceptable by council.
Does that work for the work that needs to be done on the assessment at the rodeo grounds?
Madam Mayor, we don't have the exact timeline of which quarter the rodeo grounds master planning will take place, but we could start with, it'll also take some time to order and purchase, or to get the the fencing, so I'm not sure exactly when it would get installed, but we could say a minimum of 1 year. We report back after it's been installed, and we should have information by then, and if you may choose to extend it longer at that time.
Okay. So you're amenable to that, Councillor Patton?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So I'm going to put it back to you then, Deputy Corporate Officer, if you could reread the motion with that timeline included.
Madam Mayor, the recommendation is that staff move forward with option 3 at the Dale Meadows location on a temporary pilot basis with the purchase and installation of temporary fencing, and that staff be directed to report back to council in 1 year from the opening of the temporary location regarding the use at this site.
Good. Thank you. Do I have to have a seconder again? Okay, thank you, Councillor Holmes. Okay, so further discussion on this one. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, and then there is a third resolution there, if I could have someone bring that forward. Or something similar, that staff are further directed to report back to council on the results of the consultation prior to posting a tender. Councillor Patton, you bringing that forward?
I will, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Trainer? Thanks. Councillor Holmes, you have a question?
Question, if I may, what are we consulting?
Well, at this point, it's option 3. Is it not?
Well, the temporary. So we're consulting on whether we want to put a temporary thing there and putting that out to tender?
Yeah,
I
that
don't
is a
understand.
good point.
Madam Mayor, sorry, I believe when we discussed that item initially with the second resolution, they were grouped together when it was read and already voted on. And it was defeated. When the second one was read out for the user groups on option 2A and preparing the site surveys, it was also read out that staff be further directed to report back on the tendering, and that motion was defeated.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you, Councillor Holmes. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but I totally understand now. And Graham, did you want to say something?
No, I think we got there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good. Okay, so we're done with the dog park. Thank you, Lori, and thank you, consultants. That was a bit of a heavy slog through that. I appreciate you giving us the, 5 different options that, even though sometimes it's difficult to sort out what it is you want when you have more options, it's great to have those options available. So thank you for that. It's been a lot of work. Okay. I think I'm going to call for our 10-minute break now so that we can get through the Eco Village all at one time rather than take a break partway through. Does that work for you, Mr. Delavat? Okay, so let's take a break now until, say, 3 o'clock. Okay, thanks. with 7.4, the Eco Village. And Graham will introduce this item.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are excited to bring back an update on our work regarding the Eco Village to Council for your consideration. Council did receive an update on May 10th, you'll recall, in Committee of the Whole meeting. And so part of this presentation that our Director of Development Services will be delivering will be familiar to Council. And as Brad will outline in a moment, many steps have been taken to mature the concept, and Council is now being provided the information relating to the environmental and other considerations that hopefully will allow further guidance to be provided to staff. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Dolovit.
Thanks, CEO Stat, and thank you, Council, for having me here today to discuss our findings of our Eco Village feasibility report. Staff have been engaging over the last 4 months diligently on this potential project, and we're here to present our findings to you today. So in terms of our mandate from Council to the staff level, we have 2 Council directions that were provided by Council at 2 separate Council meetings, and I'll just talk about each one specifically. So on February 22nd, 2021, Council provided a resolution to staff that Council reaffirms the commitment to complete the solar and storage battery project in its chosen location, which is located at the very south point of Cartwright Mountain as it bends around Prairie Valley Road. And I'll show you some maps that indicate the size of the current battery project. And we're currently, I believe, getting into the tendering stage right now with regards to this project to start this year for the District of Summerland. So, but then following that meeting on February 22nd, then the next regular Council meeting, we had a subsequent Council direction that Council also directs staff to investigate the feasibility of an environmentally sensitive eco-village style development that would enhance and complement the district's solar and storage project at 13500 Prairie Valley Road. So that is district-owned property that we have where we're proposing to locate the solar and storage project. That's actually a much larger area than the project itself. So maybe there is the potential to consider an eco-village style development in and around the solar and storage project itself. So with those 2 directions, this was our initial methodology in considering the feasibility of this idea from Council. We wanted to understand and determine the high-level planning considerations based on initial assessment. We wanted to understand the existing land use context and also the land and engineering attributes of the subject property itself, which I'll get into today. We also researched eco-village best practices and other examples from other communities that we can maybe learn from. We also completed an environmental inventory desktop review of the environmental attributes of the site. We wanted to understand further the current recreational uses on the site. We wanted to do some preliminary engagement with Penticton Indian Band on the cultural values of the site, and then following all of that review, to finalize a preliminary concept, which is actually included in the Council pack today as a preliminary concept, and report back to Council our findings, and that's what we've done. Engagement to date, we've had no formal public consultation with regards to this project with the general community. We have struck an interdepartmental project team that includes our electrical utility staff, public works, parks with Lori Mullen here beside me, and then also planning and development services. So it is a broad-based interdepartmental team focused on this idea. We've also engaged specifically with key interest groups, including the Cartwright Mountain Recreational Trail user groups. We've had a meeting with adjacent landowners in and around these district-owned property. that may potentially benefit from this project, specifically with also the extension of sanitary sewer servicing to the area. And then also we've engaged with Penticton Indian Band Council with a tour on site that council is aware of. So the subject property is shown on this map by that teal color. That teal color actually represents a institutional zoning that's currently zoned for the property. It also has a official community plan designation of administrative. Its primary access to the property is Prairie Valley Road. Via there before the bend as it's going from west to east, there's a primary access there. And then you can see its proximity to some existing residential areas to the north and northwest, including Sunset Place with one of those arrows, Deer Ridge further to the west, Cartwright Mountain to the very north in that brown area. And then also we have some existing land use applications that are currently in process to the south of the district's property. So the district owns approximately 66 acres of land in this area. As you can see from this hatched area that's all yellow, that's all the district-owned property within the area. Like I already mentioned, there is an existing access from Prairie Valley Road, but as well, there is a potential, another access option coming across from Denike Street off of Morrow Avenue. You can see it on one of those blue arrows on the map, where there exists an existing road right-of-way that could be potentially utilized to provide access to the site, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in the presentation. So the next part of my presentation here talks about what we learned from exploring what other communities have done with this eco-village idea, and also sustainability lens kind of development. And probably the number one example we have in a BC setting is Dockside Green, which is located in Victoria, BC. It's very similar to our project in that it was a city-owned property. It was a former dockyards that the city of Victoria owned. It was also a contaminated property that needed to be cleaned up before it was ready for development. And the city worked extensively on a concept to seek high sustainability goals. They wanted to require LEED platinum level green building. They also selected their development teams through a triple bottom line approach. They encouraged bidders that when they were submitting in terms of potentially purchasing parts of the development to achieve higher levels of sustainability, to submit lower bid pricing in order to achieve those sustainability goals. There was also an integrated energy system that was designed, and there was a number of sustainability components that I won't get into in detail, but in general, this actually was, at the time when it was developed in Victoria, was rated the highest in the world for sustainability neighborhood development, which we can aspire to as part of this potential project. Another example, Green Ridge Heights in Fort St. John. Here they did passive home building was a requirement. They tried to encourage active transportation options, cycling in the summer and then cross-country skiing to the downtown area of Fort St. John. I can tell you from this example, though, there has been a lack of uptake with residential buildings actually being developed in this area, possibly due to the location and more rural setting. And then another option here that we looked at in depth was Southeast Falls Creek, which is probably more urban oriented type of concept. It was urban agriculture was included as part of this concept plan. Green roofs were located on the buildings. There was also a requirement for conservation, which is also something that I'll be talking about with this area for habitat conservation. Seaside greenways and bikeways were required, and also a neighborhood energy system was a requirement for this development. So now kind of looking at those comparisons and looking at some of the aspects of this site, what would lend itself well to this high sustainability focused development? And definitely the first place we can look at is the actual solar project itself. It's a 1 megawatt capacity, which provides enough power to average 100 homes. There's potential for it to be connected with a microgrid connection, the homes to the actual solar project itself. And with that potential, there's an option or a potential for carbon neutrality for the development to aspire to, especially if we consider other types of energy efficiency and energy source specifications as we go through this process and designing the site that we could aspire to with our carbon neutral goal. We know that the land area does have some highly sensitive habitat, and we do have some preliminary work done in that regard, and I'll get into. We also recognize the environmental benefits of extending community sanitary sewer to this area. It's a 2-kilometer walk cycle to downtown. There's phenomenal recreational trail and park access, of course, being on the toe of Cartwright Mountain. And as well, the solar project itself is actually the former works yard, so it can be potentially considered a brownfield site itself. This has already been presented once to council. I'll just skip through this quickly, but we've identified 3 potential certification processes to consider as we go through this eco-village design process. One is the LEED certification for neighborhood development, looking at more the neighborhood scale. Second was this Envision process, which looks specifically at the infrastructure that's being built within a development area, and as well has a bit more broader criteria than just LEED, looking at buildings. It also looks at the natural environment and climate resiliency as well as part of their criteria. So more looking at the infrastructure side. And then finally, looking at the buildings themselves, so it's an opportunity to seek a higher step level with the district owning the land and controlling how it gets developed to pursue net zero energy ready type of building construction, passive housing standards perhaps that would require a minimum of heating or cooling. So now just talking a bit about the land use aspects of the property. The property is located within the district's urban growth boundary that's set within our official community plan. And this urban growth boundary defines where we want future residential growth to occur. If council members, the district recently, I would say a few years ago, completed a new urban growth study that was adopted within our official community plan. And in that process, the urban growth boundary was constricted further from where it was previously. And communities such as the North Prairie Valley area, as well as Crescent Beach, were removed from the urban growth boundary of areas where we do not want to see a large infill amount of urban growth. However, these areas which are identified here in the hatched gray-blue area are still included in our urban growth boundary as areas where we want new residential growth to occur. And this also includes the district's property, given its proximity to existing residential that's located to the northwest as well as to the east, going further into town. The subject property is also located within an environmentally sensitive development permit area, and I will get into a bit of detail here with regards to what that means for the district. So this permit area is placed on property due to the potential of significant environmental habitat areas being found on site. And we use this layer for all new development being considered within environmentally sensitive areas within the district. So according to the development permit, any development prior to occurring on site has to have an associated development permit issued that has a assessment that's been completed by an RP Bio that identifies the habitat areas that are found on site and mitigation options to protect those areas as much as possible. As well, and I'll get into some of our policy guideline, the development should be designed to maintain the high value environmental sensitive areas as much as possible. And we denote those areas as an ESA 1 definition, and I'll explain that a bit in detail here. So environmental sensitive areas, we use at the staff level and also with biologists that prepare their assessments for our review, a sliding scale methodology of different environmental sensitive areas, starting with ESA 1 being highly sensitive habitat that are basically areas that we want to conserve, and the primary objective of this area should be avoidance from any future development. ESA 2 are areas that have some moderate significance to habitat significance and also species diversity. And so the primary objective for ESA 2 is avoidance, but development may be pursued if there's a rationale provided. And then it drops further with ESA 3 and then ESA 4 being little or no value as a wildlife habitat area. And remember those as I get into the mapping here for our property. The guidelines that staff follow to review these assessments that are prepared, we have some policy guidance in our official community plan that in accordance with any environmental assessment submitted, lands deemed highly environmentally sensitive, ESA 1, must be designated in the development permit as non-disturbance areas and protected through conservation covenants, parkland dedication, or protection mechanisms. As well, development should be planned, designed, and constructed to avoid encroachment on sensitive ecosystems identified in the environmental assessment. As well, another policy statement here, should the development plan include some impacts on environmentally sensitive areas, these impacts are to be mitigated as much as possible and perhaps offset with enhancement of other areas that are perhaps more environmentally sensitive. So those are some guidance that we have to provide back to the biologists that prepare those assessments and also us as we go through the design process. So we presented these concepts and asked for some preliminary directions at the May 10th special council meeting on this topic with council, and council gave us some preliminary directions to help inform our concept, which is presented today. Council wanted to consider a high-level certification process for sustainability. There was also a preliminary direction to consider multifamily residential, as well as shared spaces and smaller uses for enhanced potential affordability. The council also reaffirmed a strong preference to avoid ESA 1 areas as much as possible, and then as well to continue engaging with key interest groups, and we've done that most recently with the adjacent landowners. So now moving on to wildfire hazard development permit area. It's another development permit that would be applicable to our land. This is a high wildfire interface area identified in our mapping, and because of that reason, we have completed a lot of underbrush thinning and tree delimbing within our property over the years to reduce that wildfire risk. Definitely for any design that's being proposed for housing, we would also want to encourage wildfire hazard mitigation and prevention as much as possible through fire smart principles, and also access being a paramount concern. So those are two aspects that we will be considering as we move forward. I already talked a bit about the proximity to the downtown core of our subject property. It's only a 2-kilometer walk or cycle if you come down through Taylor Place from subject property or from our property and into the downtown core, or a 5-minute drive wrapping around Prairie Valley, but still fairly close to the downtown area. Okay, now this is where I get into how we came up with the actual preliminary concept that's included in council's package. So once we understood the planning context, we looked at the land and engineering attributes of the land of the district's property itself. And you can see from this image on the left, that is a LiDAR image, it's called, which shows the delineations of the slope that are found on site. So any areas that are shown in black are slopes that are greater than 30%. That can be restrictive for potential development. So you can definitely see that as our property moves north from the potential solar project area that's in the south, there's a bit of a valley bottom area on the west side of our property bordering up to Sunset Place. But then as you move east from there, the grade increases quickly, over 30%. It levels off for a bit, increases further again, and then drops quickly to the east going into town. And if you've ever mountain biked in this area, you see phenomenal views of town along that bank that's sloping down towards the east, and also a trail system that we want to protect through this concept. Speaking of trails, we do have some undesignated recreational trails that are currently in place on the property. Are shown by this map before you today. I'm sure that not all the trails that have been developed are actually shown on this map. There's probably more that have been recently added to over the years, especially with the increase in ridership that the Cartwright Mountain has experienced over last year with COVID-19. These trails right now are currently undesignated trails. This is not a formal park area of the district, and that these trails are not included within our Parks and Trails Master Plan. Right now, the district has not been maintaining these trails, but rather it's been a number of different recreational trail user groups that have been doing it on their own. With regards to sewer extension, actually before this potential project was contemplated, staff completed a 90% design level of a sewer extension into Deer Ridge. And you can see the different sections of this extension into Deer Ridge and the route that was proposed to go through the district property, wrapping around the north side of the solar project and then connecting into Taylor Place, and then ultimately to the existing system that's found on Cartwright Avenue right now. The reason why this route was chosen was specifically to reduce costs. The route follows the old irrigation flume that's found on site. That's all a fairly gradual grade decrease going into kind of the downtown core area from the higher peak elevation in Deer Ridge, and sloping downwards gradually. And so that helps us avoid additional costs through the requirement for a lift station, which is not needed for this potential route. So with regards to sewer specifically, and in some of those preliminary considerations in terms of the land, there's some additional environmental considerations for council to consider, that potentially the sewer extension may allow for the closure of private septic systems, which we are aware of at the staff level are creating some issues, specifically in Deer Ridge and Sunset Place. We are also aware or can suspect that these septic systems, when they are failing, may be leaching into the groundwater underneath the communities of Deer Ridge and Sunset Place. And then those groundwater flows then entering into Prairie Creek, which is a fish-bearing stream. So definitely that there is some environmental potential impacts happening if there is a number of failures occurring right now with those private septic systems that are occurring on site. And as well, like I already mentioned, there is a number of recreational and trail uses already happening on Cartwright Mountain, but I do want to stress that these have not been formally designated as park space through a park designation or zoning. And so there's an opportunity to potentially address that as well with this concept. Environmental sensitivity with the solar project itself, we've completed a preliminary environmental review of the site for where we wanted to place the solar project panels. You can see from this map that it shows the ESA 1 areas as the yellow shading. The ESA 2 is that bright green, and then in the middle there is the ESA 4 area, which is primarily old works area that is the majority is going to be taken up with the solar project facility in that footprint, which I have a separate map to show. But you can see that going to the east of the solar project facility, as well as south, that the site is fairly restricted due to the presence of ESA 1 areas to the east and south, which it makes it difficult for consideration of any development in and around the south or east area of the solar project. In addition, we've also done a desktop review, as already mentioned, for the north area of the district-owned property, and we've identified through our consultant that the presence of a wetland in the very northwest area of our property, and that wetland as well was confirmed with engagement with adjacent landowners and recreational trail users. So we are proposing to protect that area as well, identified in that orange color again. But the majority of the land is identified as ESA 2 right now. But again, I want to stress that this is preliminary right now. We still have to do a more in-depth environmental assessment of the site before considering future development of the property. With regards to the actual design of the development concept, we started looking first initially at this area shown in green for two reasons. One is the grades associated with this area of being a challenge, and then also the existing trail system that connects to the Cartwright Trail trails going further north from this area. So we recognize that due to those two reasons that there might be an opportunity to protect the existing trail system as much as possible, as well as the grades do pose a challenge for us to consider development. So it didn't make sense logistically as well to consider development of this area. So we recommend as part of our concept that this area be formally dedicated as a district managed park, and that would allow it to have opportunity for grant funding, as well as perhaps park enhancements like we're similarly doing right now with Giants Head Park moving into the future. So with it being a district managed park as well, the trail system as well, parking areas and garbages and signage will become the district responsibility. And be included as part of our park management plan on an annual basis. So that is something that could be a benefit moving into the future and for future generations. For the solar footprint itself, you can see that here's our initial preliminary footprint. You can't really see it too well, but you can see that there's some blue lines on the image on the right that show where the panels are to be placed. This is again preliminary. It might expand further to this when we start discussing with our successful project tender award consultant, and you can see that the majority of that previously identified ESA 3 and 4 area is taken up by the solar project facility occurring within that site. So just for orientation purposes, the image on the left-hand side shows kind of both the proposed park area in the green area and then also the solar project facility in the orange area, which shows the current constraints of the property. So with that, I'll dive into the actual preliminary concept that's before council today to consider. Just again, it's very preliminary, I want to stress. We are recommending that we do a detailed development concept as a next stage. But this is the product of a number of engagement sessions already completed internally and with external interest groups. a couple of points I want to point out. So we're recommending a cul-de-sac type development going to the north of the site. Access coming from Otley Avenue via Moore Avenue to the west. The areas in yellow are right now just preliminary areas of residential development. We're not really too concerned right at this moment what type of form of residential that will be discussed at the next stage of the development concept, but you can kind of see where potential development areas could occur. Everything in green in this map, I want to point out too as well, is proposed to be protected in its natural state with either the formal park designation or maintained as natural area. And I just want to point out too that if you probably can't see this on my slides, but so there is an attachment within the council package that shows the detailed concept. So in further detail of the concept, you can see that on the west side of the development area, we have a landscape buffer being proposed. In addition to the larger park area that's to the east of the development area. And this is to retain as much of the existing trail system that's found on site as possible. The green lines on this map, the dashed green neon lines, are the location of the existing trail system. So there is already an existing trail that kind of hugs the west side of our property within that buffer area that we would be proposing to maintain as a kind of a roundabout type of trail that you could go around the whole development with through that buffer area being maintained on the west side. We are, though, required to realign some of the trails, and those trails that are to be realigned are shown in purple, magenta on the map. You can see a new trail proposed on the west side, closer to the boundary of the development area. And then as well, within the residential area, we want to ensure that any future development would, with the private lot areas, will maintain as much natural landscaping as possible on those private lots. So that would be something that we would determine criteria for in the next stage of the detailed development concept. Looking further to the south, like I mentioned, we have the Otley Ave access coming from the west. This access was chosen over Prairie Valley due to the grade differences of getting up to the site. It's a much gradual incline going up to our property versus Prairie Valley Road, which is a much steeper grade challenge to try to address with our local road standards that we require. We also are proposing, following consultation with the recreational trail users, that we establish some more formal designated parking areas to the west along the bulb out that's identified there on the west bulb out to connect into the proposed Cartwright Mountain Park area that's being proposed to be formalized. And you can see some new trail connections from that area in purple. We also recognized on site the existence of this kind of informal little kids pump track that was located on site. And we are proposing to protect that area as a kind of a neighborhood park area for the residents as well as anyone visiting the larger Cartwright Mountain Park for just having an opportunity for kids to recreate in close proximity to this area. Like I already mentioned, our goal is to try to maintain as much of the trail connections that are already existing as much as possible. So just some preliminary considerations of this concept. Access is from Otley Road. Grades are, given the areas that we looked at, going to the southeast or even further east, going north from the site, this is probably one of the more flatter options, which will definitely help save costs in developing it. Servicing most lots can be connected through a gravity sewer connection, and so there is no requirement for a lift station even with this concept. which was another positive in terms of saving cost. There is the requirement to realign some of the trails currently within that area, but we've engaged with the recreational trail users on that aspect of this. We don't foresee to be any impact on the solar project's site itself, so that project can go ahead right now, and this project could happen at a later point and not impact the solar site. We are also proposing with this concept to protect the environmental sensitive areas as currently determined. And again, we still have to do a fine-grained detail of that. And just very preliminary, we've done some kind of economics on potential number of lots we could get from that development area to be around 49 lots, and a very rough estimate of around $2.7 million to construct this proposed development area. And so definitely the economics of this type of development work out to $56,000 per lot, which is something that it does lend itself to being a feasible development for consideration. So I mentioned the key user groups that we've already engaged with. Cartwright Mountain recreational trail users, they identified parking, and that actually led to further design changes due to parking being a current concern for accessing the trails in Cartwright Mountain. They also identified that unpredictable wetland to the north on our property, and that the wetlands should be protected. But in general, they were very much in favor of this concept. They liked the enhancements being proposed, the kids' kind of BMX pump track area, the proposed larger formal designated area for maintenance of the existing Cartwright Mountain trails. And they did mention, though, that it'd be nice to see even further trails extended further to the south side of the solar project. Adjacent landowners, when we met with them, some comments with regards to the landscaping considerations of the site. We should look for xeriscaping to reduce requirements for irrigation, which is, again, something we can look at the next stage. There was the request to have roads extended to go south of the solar project too, to provide access to the lands to the south that are owned by private property owners. That was discussed. There was also a discussion of the different types of options for the sewer extension to Deer Ridge, including going along Prairie Valley Road as an option. And staff talked about that would requirement, or that route would require a lift station. So that may increase cost, but it might be economical if there are other development projects that might want to tie into that type of a connection. The Penticton Indian Band Council, in meeting them on site, they did stress to us they need to complete an archaeological assessment, which we are proposing as next stage activities, to also consider embedded carbon in the design and to seek true carbon neutrality, and also consider partnering with the Sustainability Construction School of Okanagan College as an opportunity, which we agree with as a great idea. So I already mentioned a few times the detailed development concept is being recommended for council today as a next stage of council, gives us direction to proceed. We want to look more in depth with zoning, what type of zoning we want to have in place for this property to protect it as a high sustainability type village concept. What type of density still needs to be determined in terms of residential density? Is it going to be multifamily or maybe pockets of multifamily with single family as well being included? Or is it strictly single family low density area that we want to consider for this area? Some of the eco-village and sustainability aspects that we want to ensure that the developer, if a developer proceeds with this concept, is going to adhere to, needs to be ironed out as at the next stage. As well, we want to understand more about the land itself. And so part of the detailed concept activities would be a geotechnical assessment of the land. Again, a more fine-grained environmental assessment that would go into the detailed development concept in terms of that concept before it's finalized by council. And then finally, we want to complete a robust community engagement process with the broader community, which we haven't done yet. The potential opportunity here with a design charrette process being used is maybe an opportunity, especially with various amount of stakeholders that are involved potentially in this project. So here's our recommendation provided to council. And I do want to point out too that because this is a new project that's being considered by council that wasn't foreseen in the 2021 budget process, we are recommending that in order to have a staff capacity freed up to focus on this project for the next 5 months, that council also consider delaying one of the current projects that are currently on our docket to complete this fall. And the one that staff is recommending to delay for a year period is the agriculture regulation review project, which was set to be initiated here in the next few months and continuing into the fall. And just a couple of reasons for that. We recognize that primarily this review was an administrative review only, and there was no legislative requirements or customer considerations that really in terms of reviewing the agricultural regulations, that this review could be potentially a large project due to the complexity of interests on protecting farm operations within our community that staff is aware of. And as well, the 1 year time period actually just coincides kind of conveniently with our agritourism accommodation pilot project, so that if there's any changes to our current regulations for agritourism accommodation, that could be perhaps wrapped up and included as part of the larger review of the agriculture regulations at the same time that's being brought forward. And then lastly, before we get into questions, next steps. We've got just a preliminary timeline here. If council gives us direction as recommended today, we will draft and release a request for proposals for a consultant firm to help us in the preparation of a detailed development concept for a new sustainability village. We will complete that concept over the next 5 months, hopefully, with community engagement. And then following that, starting in 2022, we'd recommend that we initiate an expression of interest process to potential development teams to either partner with the district or that the district would be willing to sell the land to complete the development by spring of next year, ideally. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for your patience.
Council? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple of questions. So is there the opportunity, and I know that we're talking staff time, but you were talking about a design charrette. If that design charrette would happen, would that not work solely in the benefit if the district was to develop this property on our own, where the district would sell the property and based on the design of the eco village?
Through the mayor to Councillor Patton, that's a good question. I think that whatever work that we complete, including the design charrette process at the staff level, now in terms of preliminary concept design and more fine-grained detail we can provide, will provide added value to whoever develops it, whether it's us that wants to consider developing in the future or someone that's wanting to build it in the future. And so I think that could potentially just add to the value of this potential concept, whoever develops it in the future, if that makes sense.
Okay. If I may. Thank you. So I guess my second question would be, would the district have greater controls on the eco village, whether it be solar panels, whether it be wastewater systems? Would it be more prudent for us, or would we have more control in regards to the design if it was us that actually sold the lots to the developers?
Well, I think that right now, I think definitely if we were going to develop it ourselves, we would have more control, of course. Although I think there would be opportunities for us to consider including the requirements of the development as part of the zoning bylaw that's adopted perhaps by council before it's sold, or even through a sale agreement process that's conditional on certain criteria, and having that kind of legislative requirements in place prior to us selling to ensure that the way it is designed to be developed will be developed as it's designed. But like I said, it probably would be more control for us to develop it ourselves.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Yeah, whichever way, I think we want to be in charge, in control, specify what happens, how it looks, the standards and such. And I just want to throw out there that I think we might, that personally, I kind of like the idea of a partnership with developer. If the developer doesn't have to put up all the capital and the risk for buying the land, and we're kind of sharing that risk that eventually the product, which would be a completed townhouse or whatever is sold, then we have a little bit more interest from a few more people. And we also maintain that control aspect. So that's probably down the road here. Yeah.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was mentioned earlier that like the solar array project would have the capability of powering 100 homes. Is that a thought that our director of our electrical utility has, that we may want to power this subdivision?
Jeremy is on the line.
Hi, thank you for the question. Councillor, it is possible to do that to some extent through the microgrid. The 100 home number for the solar plant and battery system is based on averages. So of course you have winter times where you're generating less with that plant, and then you have summer times where you're generating more. So it wouldn't be like this eco village would be connected to the solar system and that's their only source of energy. They'd be connected to our grid. And so again, it's the punch bowl thing where the solar system's putting energy into the punch bowl. Our wholesaler is putting energy into the punch bowl. The distributed generation customers are also adding to that, and then you're kind of dipping out of it. So you're getting a mix of energy from different sources all the time. But for the eco village and the number of homes in the preliminary values that I'm seeing could power the eco village in summer times, but not in winter times. So it's not a cut and dry issue, but definitely possible to supply that number of homes with the system that we're looking at installing in the summertime when the sun is out. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. So just following up on that. So if you did go down that road and look at the potential for microgrid, does that change the scope of the solar project as it stands now? Would it still enable things like peak shaving?
Yes, it would. So the way we have the solar project spec right now is it can accommodate a connection to the eco village if we so choose to do that in the future. But it won't affect the peak shaving capability other than in those times where you may have a system-wide outage. Say it was a loss of supply from our wholesaler, like the transmission line went down. If we had a microgrid connection to the eco village, we may choose to use that opportunity to feed the eco village from the solar battery system using the solar energy that's being generated at that moment in time, plus the stored energy in the batteries. And if we were to deplete the batteries at that time, then the peak shaving the following day may not occur. And I can say that again in other words, if that wasn't clear.
Would you like to give it a go in other words?
Sure.
Thank
So let's say, for instance, the eco-village is connected to our solar and battery system, and our entire distribution system had a loss of supply from Fortis. So in that case, we'd have a community-wide outage, but we would have a microgrid possibility at the eco-village using our solar and battery system. So we could supply the eco-village if we so chose to do so. But we have no, say it's a cloudy day or what have you, we don't know what the situation is. So just for conversation's sake, say it's a day where the solar generation can't keep up with the load of the eco-village. So in that case, we'd be depleting our batteries as we're supplying the eco-village. And if that outage was to last, say, a full day or what have you, while the transmission line is being fixed that supplies Summerland, we may find that the state of charge of our battery system is low after that event, and say it went through the night. So the eco-village is enjoying their power still on, the rest of the community is out. And then when the rest of the community is energized again, the state of charge of our batteries could be very low, in which case we may not have the right amount of time to charge them back up and peak shave that following day. So we may miss a peak shaving on one particular day. So that's how a microgrid could affect our peak shaving capability.
Seeing as how we're using a hypothetical possibility, if we did run out of power for the whole community, probably emergency areas would be powered first, right? I mean, isn't that part of the resilience piece of the solar project? Yeah.
We can choose to energize the community however we would like at that time through distribution switching. So most of our facilities have backup diesel generation, so they could be running on that. If this was an extended outage, say it lasted a full week, say again, hypothetical disaster scenario, we could choose to power hospital, through distribution switching some other load, some other critical load instead of homes in the eco-village. But if the outage was only for a few hours, let's say, when we were not in a sort of disaster scenario, we could still choose to supply the eco-village through a microgrid if it was put in place. And again, it could affect the peak shaving the following day, or we could choose not to. So that's all sort of down to the decision point at the time, depending on the situation.
Thank you. That answers your question, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Van Alphen.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, Councillor Barkwell, I think was ahead of me. I apologize.
When you start talking about connecting the battery storage and the solar project to the eco-village, you have to think about, well, what's the cost and what's the advantage? The only advantage is to be able to say, oh, look, it's supplying our eco-village. Really, it's going to cost a lot more money. And, I think that Jeremy's analogy is a punch bowl is great. I mean, the power goes in, it's hooking it up to supply a specific source for a specific time that's used once a year or whatever. It just, well, you'd have to start talking about numbers. And once you did, I think you wouldn't see any advantage.
Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And back to the punch bowl scenario, part of the eco-village may be rooftop solar that's contributing to the punch bowl. Back to the, I just want to ask just an observation. So solar site, it's basically brownfield that we are going to recapture, clean up, which we have, and put our solar array on this brown field. Basically, we're going to convert that to possibly, we could convert that eventually into ES1. And, just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that we take away ES1 elsewhere. That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but also by bringing sewer up to, you know, the Deer Ridge community and Sunset Place, we're doing, you know, massive things for the environment. We will definitely be helping the environment, as we know when those fail and the effluent is flowing down the mountainside into Prairie Creek, for say, we're, you know, getting in the water table. By bringing sewer up there, we are doing good things for the environment. You know, so I think there's room in the eco village to look at, you know, what, you know, there might be other areas or things closer to the solar site that we can still develop, you know, maybe, and look at the densities and things like that. I'm just throwing it out there. Thanks.
Okay. I have one question. It went back to your response to Councillor Patton's question about development. You mentioned that, I think you said that the zoning amendment, the required zoning amendment, and I assume the OCP amendment, those would be done before? Yes. Okay, so along those lines, does that also include the development permits that need to be put in place? Like, would those be kind of de facto approved before the land was put up for sale for development?
Yeah, I think we are getting ahead of ourselves a bit. We definitely, staff recommend that we complete this detailed design, a development concept, and maybe like Councillor Van Halfen mentioned, there could be opportunities for still changes in that concept as we go forward with that process. But I would think that the more certainty we can provide a potential developer in placing a bid on the property, the higher value we can extract from that bid process. So if we have the zoning in place, we have the environmentally sensitive development permit issued and a report completed, and you know, that goes in detail with the environmental values on site, and there's a permit associated with it, as well as the wildfire development permit as well for the wildfire interface area. I think those would be all added value things that would be completed for a potential developer to extract higher value from the land for the concept, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And that's a great reminder to get back to what is actually on you know, for the discussion this afternoon. Are there any other questions before we get on to getting the motions on the floor? Councillor Patton and then Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know I'm stretching here, but would there be a possibility, we've already seen going to the south, we have the Dinsmore property and the Kubik properties that are straight south. Is there any chance that perhaps a discussion can happen with those two owners where it may enhance the eco-village, and perhaps they would have a tendency to buy in to a larger landscape, so to speak, of environmentally friendly housing up there? Thank you.
Sorry, I was just trying to flip to a map that shows those two properties while we're discussing, and we did have, I guess this one would be good. You can kind of see it from that line that's jogging down. The two properties are located directly south of the district's own land there, and as the Prairie Valley hugs around to a Cartwright Mountain. I can tell you that both owners were as part of our adjacent landowner meeting that we had a few weeks ago, and where we presented this design concept to them. I think there may be opportunity for different options in the design concept as we move forward. What we did talk about was the potential extension of sewer down Prairie Valley, although we haven't really looked at that in too much detail internally yet, because we initially wrote it off because of cost and the lift station that would be required, as well as it's a longer route than the one that's been selected. But if those two properties are to be developed and they want as well a connection to sanitary sewer, there might be an opportunity to cost share potentially on that potential project. That would be something that we would have to probably engage further with them within the next stage in the design concept and confirm the preferred route for sewer connection. If that makes sense.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Along those lines, somebody whose opinion on these matters, who I respect, tells me that there's some expensive difficulties with the current route, which on closer examination may become, you will agree with them or not. So yeah, hopefully the whole route options are looked at a little bit more closely. I understand that they're, it's well, you said 90%, whatever that means, but the other question I had, so yeah, I like the idea that you're going to pursue that further, the route options. The question I had was, you threw out the number 46 units or 49 units or something?
I think it was 49. But.
Yeah, do you have any breakdown of, what type of units or where they would be? And like when you start talking about possibilities, could it go as high as 60 or as low as 30 or what?
Yeah, I'll just flip to that slide that shows our concept.
At what point will that decision be made?
Yeah, and I think that's, again, something we wanted to tackle in the next stage with the development concept is look at the form of housing that we want to see in this area. And this is where we want to do as well, ask the community and the surrounding neighborhoods what type of form of density we should be seeking in this area. Right now, what we use for that 49 amount is our typical, it's called RSD1 for zoning. It's our standard single family residential lot within our urban areas of the district. But it could be a mix of housing. It could be more narrower single family zone to get more lots out of the potential development. It could be strictly all multifamily if that's the direction the community and council wants to go for it. But that is something we want to explore further with the design concept. And for that reason, you don't see any lines on this map. It's just kind of, here's some areas where we could consider development, but we don't really know the type of lots yet.
Okay, so it could be more, could be, okay, that's good.
Council, it's just after 4 o'clock. We have to have a resolution to extend the meeting to a certain time. Could someone bring that forward, please? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Extend it to 5:15.
5:15?
Five? Not enough. I don't think it'll be enough time either. So, but how's the feeling of the rest of the council? 5:30?
No, the other way. I think that
5
the
o'clock.
mums were suggesting 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock max.
Seconder, do either one of you that have particular concerns want to second that, or should we back it off more than that?
Can I suggest 4:45?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that recommendation.
Thank you.
Would you be seconding 4:45 then?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you. This is a bit of a question that follows up on Councillor Barkwell's comments on the route of the sewer design. I'm wondering if you can go back to the slide that shows the urban growth area. urban growth boundary, I mean.
It's a few back here. Just hold on a second.
It's back a ways, yeah. It's kind of a gray color. There it is. Looking at this, and it may be, I may be interpreting it wrong, but the two properties that are to the south, so Councillor Patton was saying Mr. Dinsmore and Mr. Kubek's property, are those in the urban growth boundary or not?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor Booth. They're not right now. So that is actually something to consider as we move forward, and the timing of our design, our development concept, in addition to the timing of those potential development applications coming forward, will be key in this process. Council is aware the one further to the west has been recently brought forward to council for consideration of an OCP amendment and rezoning bylaw amendment, which would add it to the urban growth boundary. It was part of that rezoning application, and it was given first reading only. So we are waiting on an environmental assessment to be completed right now for that property prior to coming back at second reading. So it's conditional on I guess, those council giving approval for that form of density in those areas.
Thank you, because that answers my second question. How do we get that in, if that's the choice of council? Councillor Van Elfen?
Just a slight point of clarification, if I may, and no disregard to anyone at the council table. It's actually the property belongs to Mr. Kubik's daughter and son-in-law, if I'm not mistaken. So, and the other question I have is that if we do a whole bunch of planning on this property and zoning, and we may handcuff a developer. You know, maybe a developer is going to come to with some ideas that we haven't even thought about. So, you know, I just think, you know, a potential partnership or a potential sale, someone might come to us with some ideas that, like I say, we haven't even thought about that may really work well. And so I don't want to tie us up too much yet, if that's okay to say that. Thank you.
Of course. Can we get to the motions that are on the in the staff request for decision? Councillor Carlson.
I'd be happy to, unless you have an important question first. Okay. I'm going to move that council adds the Sustainability Village project to the list of strategic priority projects of District of Summerland Council, and that council directs staff to prepare a 2021 budget amendment and direct $70,000 for the preparation of a Sustainability Village development concept from the land sale reserve, and that the agricultural regulation review project be delayed till the fall of 2022.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Van Elfen. Okay, any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. I was going to say anonymously, but no. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to recognize the hard work and efforts that Brad and his team have made to see us to this point in the process, and also for the excellent presentation he made today. So from me to you, Brad, thank you.
And on behalf of council, from us to you as well. I particularly appreciate it, even though we had seen much of this before. It's really good to get it out into the wider public sphere, so that everyone is kind of understanding where we're at in this potential project. So thank you. On to 7.6, building bylaw and step code, the project charter and engagement. And this is probably you again, isn't it, Brad? Yes, it is.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll try to be quick and then cognizant of time on this item. Some background, council is aware that the province of BC passed a new Building Act to modernize BC's building regulatory system. There was a number of changes with regards to the new Building Act. And then further to that as well, they amended the BC Building Code in 2018. And then the Municipal Insurance Association of BC, in order to support local governments, they've developed a model building bylaw for different local governments to consider in, I guess, complying with both the Building Act and the 2018 BC Building Code. Following all this work, the District Council in 2018 directed staff to engage with the regional local government jurisdictions within our area on the implementation of BC Energy Step Code. At the time as well, a notice of consultation was submitted to the province on Energy Step Code implementation by the district as is required by provincial policy. But on June 24th, 2019, a draft building bylaw was presented by staff to council and recommended for first reading to introduce the bylaw and to initiate public consultation. And at the time in 2019, council provided direction back to staff that those two resolutions that were proposed to be recommended for approval to be tabled to a future meeting of council. Following that direction, council established the Development Process Improvement Advisory Committee in the fall of 2019. And this committee has been working with the Development Services Department on a number of process improvements, as well as improvements to our bylaws that we use to administer the Development Services Department, such as our administrative update to our zoning bylaw, our development applications procedure, and our OCP amendments as well to allow for new development to occur. However, the building bylaw review project has been on hold since 2019, largely due to COVID-19 impacts as well as staff turnover in the development services area. However, notwithstanding all of that context, the Clean BC plan does provide a date of 2022 to require that all new buildings being constructed in BC be constructed 20% more efficient than that required within the 2018 building code. As such, we're expecting that next year the province will be requiring the implementation and adoption of the BC Energy Step Code, although we do not have a date yet set by the province to be implemented by local governments. And then finally, as well, in conformance with our district community energy and emissions reduction plan, was a targeted action to implement the BC Energy Step Code. And it was estimated that this would save 79 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent if we were to do so. So all of that being said, staff is recommending today that we proceed with the initiation of a new project review of our new building bylaw for the district, as well as the implementation of the BC Energy Step Code. In that regard, I've drafted some materials, a project charter, as well as an engagement plan that sets out a 5-month engagement process with the Development Process Improvement Advisory Committee as a steering committee, but also engaging with key stakeholders in the building community, such as Canadian Home Builders Association, the Urban Development Institute, as well as our Chamber of Commerce. We also are hoping to tap into external resources in this area, such as the City of Penticton, because they've undergone a thorough implementation process themselves, as well as the RDOS Senior Energy Specialist that they have on staff and the Community Energy Association. So our process that's been developed here is to engage with the community and with these stakeholders prior to drafting a bylaw for council's consideration. And for that reason, there is no bylaw attached to the report tonight. We want to report back to council on here's what we've heard from the community with regards to the aspects that need to change within our building bylaw, as well as how we want to go forward with the step code implementation process. And we will be presenting what we've heard at a future council meeting, and then getting council's direction to proceed with drafting the bylaw. We're expecting that this process will take us till the January of next year, where we would start the formal review process at that time for adoption of a new building bylaw. So we presented these materials at the last meeting of the Development Process Improvement Advisory Committee in this past June, and in general, the members of the DPIC were in favor of the proposed project process as developed by staff and recommended that the district proceed as indicated. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Any questions on this? Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. More of a comment than a question. Depending on, and our Director of Development Services and I had spoke about this, but I think as we move forward, we have to be very careful that the policies and procedures that we move forward with in regards to the STEP code is that the all the parts of the STEP code require a certified energy advisor, and the certified energy advisor is the person that does the design, does the modeling, and tells our contractors how to build the project. One thing that we have to be very careful of is that the municipality isn't downloaded to do the inspections on behalf of that certified energy advisor where we're enforcing his design. So one of the things that my comment is that when we do go through this process, that we develop a policy that the onus is put onto the certified energy advisor, that they take responsibility for their designs, and it's not put upon our building inspectors, because you could have 4 different certified energy advisors doing a design on 4 different homes, and our inspectors would be doing 4 different inspections, not based on BC Building Code, but based on the certified energy advisor's design of that. So that was my own, that's my comment, just so that responsibility is put where responsibility is really should be laid on. Thank you.
As part of the bylaw
Absolutely.
that comes forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I see Brad is writing that down and acknowledging. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you care to bring forward the resolution?
Absolutely. That council directs staff to initiate the building bylaw, STEP code implementation project, and engagement plan.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen is seconding. Any further discussion? All in favor? And none opposed. Thank you. I think we're going to make it. 7.7, District of Summerland Corporate Officer Appointment. And this is for Dallas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for the appointment of the corporate officer position. For those of you who haven't yet met Kendra Kinsley, I'd like to introduce you to her today. She joined us last week, coming from the District of Vanderhoof, holding a very similar position. The staff recommendation is that the appointment of Karen Needham as corporate officer for the District of Summerland be rescinded, and that Kendra Kinsley be appointed as a corporate officer for the District of Summerland as outlined in the report dated August 9th, 2021.
Thank you. Someone you'd like to make that motion? Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Seconder, Councillor Patton. Discussion? Oh, okay, all in favor? Thank you. And 7.8 is Southern Interior Bylaw Notice Dispute Adjudication Registry Agreement, and that's beginning with Dallas as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hopefully another quick one. This is to consider an amendment to the Southern Interior Bylaw Notice Dispute Adjudication Registry Agreement Bylaw. We did bring forward a 2021 agreement earlier this spring for council's consideration. Since that time, we've had a request through the program that's administered by the City of Kelowna for an additional municipality to join the service. That's the Regional District of North Okanagan. Because the agreement is adopted formally by bylaw to update the amended agreement, we do have to go through the formal amendment process. So before you today is the updated agreement to include the Regional District of North Okanagan formally in the service, and the staff recommendation is that the bylaw be read a first, second, and third time.
Thank you. Anyone like to bring this forward? Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Patton. Any discussion on this? Dan Maya is in the room with us as well. I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. And my apologies, Kendra. I would like to publicly welcome you to the District of Summerland staff. Certainly we've met each other already, but I'd like to extend a public welcome on behalf of council. So thank you. Okay, now we're on to item 9, the public or media comment period. And I believe Mr. Ron Kubek. No, he's not. He hasn't joined us. All right. Do we have anyone else? I see a couple of people on Zoom.
Yes, I'm ready to go whenever.
Okay, just a moment. Okay. Again, Ms. Stark, you can start us off and again start with your civic address, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
7815 Giants Head Road. And here's my speech. Why would the rodeo grounds even be considered when the costs for Dale Meadows were too high? A survey showed only 3% of dog owners will use this site. Cost of terraforming and construction would be exorbitant for perhaps a few users. Snow removal will be an additional expense. The trail users with off-leash dogs are not the same as those who need a fenced dog park. Issues with cactus, rattlesnakes, and other wildlife will put off some of these dog owners, not to mention the walk from the road to the park gate. The ground is unsuitable for a temporary dog park. In any case, Snow Avenue is ready to go temporarily. It would be much more cost effective, and in my opinion, the dog park users will love going there. Thank you to Councillor Traynor for adding the suggestion to the council. Why is it so important not to give away one ball diamond when it really isn't being used? And there are 2 other diamonds at that park and many other diamonds in Summerland besides. Dog owners have nothing. It would be nice if some user groups were generous enough to move their few kids to a new location. Their loss would be minimal and possibly even feel good about doing it. The Dog Owners Association is a voice for all the dog owners who want to use a dog park. It is the owners themselves who use the park and pay the fees. I don't think it matters how many members are in the association. We have contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars when the users of the space we prefer have not. So why would we have to contribute even more? There are a lot of retired senior dog owners who deserve a dog park without having to pay even more. It is my opinion that dog owners who do not pay for licenses use the trails and will not be using the park anyway. Please take Snow Avenue under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
Yes, thank you. I'll just get started. SDA's membership between our Facebook and non-Facebook users is about 700 members and growing. These members must be residents, have a dog, and desire a fenced dog park. 58% of Canadian households own at least one dog, which is a massive user group. Grass for us is not designed for aesthetics, but for safety. And we're not asking for a manicured soccer field quality, we're asking for a safe surface. Gravel and sand is unsafe to run on, becomes hot in summer and causes joint and paw injuries. Bare dirt becomes mud and spiny invasive weeds. Regarding rodeo grounds, did council not learn anything from the last consultation? It would be challenging to access in winter, definitely cost more than $200,000, and survey results indicated the lowest support among dog owners, even from the town core. Why does this keep coming back as a main option? To Councillor Carlson, Snow Ave has not been the only site suggested by dog owners. We have suggested Powell Beach, Peach Orchard, Snow Ave, Dale Meadows, and others. To date, all have been removed or not considered because council does not put them on the table or because the feedback for small users and residents. We still mention Snow because it has the least conflict, is very inexpensive, and meets the criteria. For the record, Summerland Minor Baseballs refused to work with the dog owners regarding Snow Ave. Remember, we have no park, so the onus is with us, with other user groups to share. Do not forget that there was a strategy to relocate the 7 and 10-year-olds. Snow Ave was not designated or preserved for minor ball play only. We have reviewed and provided through our proposal the historical documents obtained through Freedom of Information request that lists the site as an athletic park, which does not exclude recreation uses. Yet council seems to wish to continue to believe an alternate narrative. Provide the evidence or stop misleading Summerland residents. To Councillor Patan, I cannot reference a single community in BC that asks its dog owners to pay for their parks. They provide it. Was pickleball asked to pay for their courts? To Councillor Trainer, thank you for your respect and for your suggestion for a 1-year trial run at Snow Ave. If it can be done at Dale Meadows where there are several identified conflicts, why can't it be done at Snow Ave with only one? Is council afraid it might succeed? Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the line that would like to speak? Okay, could I have a resolution to close this meeting to the public?
Hello, I'm here.
Who's I'm?
Hello?
We don't know who
Simone
you are,
Coutos.
please.
Simone Coutos, 13514 Prairie Valley Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, I can't believe how condescending the mayor and the council is toward us citizens. This is amazing. We are told now the bottom line is as long as it's not Snow Avenue. Wow. The mayor and council seem to be digging in their heels and disregarding their own research and overwhelming community support in favor of Snow Avenue. Why? Because the mayor and council don't want to take one field away from a total of 9 available from a small house league that occasionally throws balls around during summer months. Where's the proof there are even kids registered, as Field 3 seems to be empty most of the time? Stats don't appear anywhere since 2011. The annual maintenance cost was over $32,000 in 2019. The mayor and council are willing to provide all 3 fields as a beautiful private playground for a handful of people, rather than converting one field into a dog park. Last thing, I've got 2 questions. Why is the mayor and council supporting a house league with a questionable online presence and scam marketing website, SummerlandMinorBaseball.com? Please go look at that. And why has the report from Summerland dog owners, which they sent you on April 24th, not yet been posted on your website? Those are the 2 questions. And I think you really do deserve to respect your citizens more than you've shown during this meeting. It really is it's been very disgraceful. So thank you very much. You have a great day. Bye.
Councillor Van Elfen, you are doing the resolution to close the meeting to the public.
I certainly am, Madam Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Patton, all in favor? Thank you.